need it in the winter time. He goes, oh no, it's for all year.
Yeah, he's pretty aggressive.
Yeah, too aggressive.
I saw online that he's asking for people.
Well, I thought this was such a nice, so this was in April. Did you read this about the unsung heroes? This is Wildlife.
It's so long, right? Department head meetings are like, nah, I'm good. Yep.
You'd have to have a president turn against a peace treaty.
This was added later, so.
Everybody George.
Thank you. Oh, I didn't, but I
left it there on my way out.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Okay.
I don't have any.
Clear that up.
I mean, things to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking at the Moody's thing. And then I was like, well, didn't they give all the synthetic collateralized debt obligations AAA ratings back in 2008? Yeah, so I mean, like, I kind of don't know anything about, I don't really, I guess they did pass Dodd-Frank in 2010, but they've already clawed back a little bit, so I don't know. Anything, it's all people want.
Well, it stayed the same as it was last time, so. I think water and sewer, at least they ratified the instruments. Water and sewer. Yeah, we can do it. We're gonna do it. Okay. Well, they're right up here. Their analysis.
Yeah.
It's a convention. Water on sewer rate increases. Really? I give you 215 reasons. So obviously they looked at it. And I got it. Do you know what no, yeah. Yeah. And then. You know those, the walls on the outside of the garage, $50,000 a side, they're gonna have a water feature.
Yeah. This is recording, so it's kind of private, I'll just step over my sheet. Got 2 minutes for you. It can be anything.
It shows nothing on my phone, but it shows there, so.
I'm starting to get used to it. Yeah. He's still working at Grand. Sorry.
All right, it is 6:30 PM. I'd like to call to order the Village Board of Trustees meeting of Monday, June 1st, 2026. Will the clerk give a roll call, please?
President Paramio,
Present.
trustee Bartholomew. Here. Trustee Newman.
Here.
Trustee Wright.
Present.
Trustee Black.
Here.
Trustee Russell.
Here.
Trustee Green. Here.
All right, we do have a quorum this evening. At this time, I invite everyone here to please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll move down to item 5, the approval of minutes. There's one set of village board meeting minutes from the May 18th meeting that needs to be approved. Chair would look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the village board meeting minutes of May 18th. Second, right?
All right, there's a first and a second on the motion to approve the village board meeting minutes of May 18th, 2026. Are there any questions, comments, or corrections to this set of minutes? Not hearing any. All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. That motion carries. All right, item 6 is going to be our first opportunity this evening for public comments. We don't have any responses from our previous meeting, so we'll just jump right into the public comments. If you have a public comment you'd like to share or a question you'd like to ask, please step up, share your name, and start your comment.
Hey everybody, I'm Jack Jones. I'd like to start my conversation on a positive note. At the last meeting I was at, I inquired about the water connections check and my and others' reluctance to let some sort of inspectors into my house. When and if there were, and where it was an identifiable issue, I would have to bear the financial responsibility. David got back to me, informed me that it is a village-wide state mandated inspection that, for me anyway, only required 4 backflow prevent valves be installed by myself. I would ask or recommend to the village to help explain this process properly in their quarterly magazine, as it would help reduce residents' reluctance to comply. Next, I'd like to ask the village board to consider a 30 to 45 day mandate to respond in writing to residents who ask legitimate questions of the village board in this or committee forums. I have been before you off and on for over a year, and still Mrs. Bartholomew has not offered up any concrete solutions for Elm Street and part of Walworth. Greengrocer employees recently stopped parking on Elm Street. Still hard to believe that buying, renovating, and moving into a new city building can happen faster than addressing village residents' concerns. I and other affected village residents understand, though disagree with not implementing parking limitations or restrictions on Walworth, a longer section of Walworth. However, I am still asking Mrs. Bartholomew to institute parking limits, etc. on Elm Street and a small portion of Walworth. The basis of my request for the village for a 30 to 45 day written response is due in large part to me being in front of you for over a year, You listen, say thanks, and nothing gets done. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
My name is John Holmes from 27 North Wildwood Avenue here in Williams Bay. This is regarding the April 1st, 2026 Streets and Highway Committee meeting. In light of the fact that there is no record of this meeting on YouTube due to technical difficulties, I feel the following facts need to be noted. I asked for this information to be part of the official minutes, but I was denied. In addition to the 5 letters sent to the committee from residents on Walworth Avenue expressing their disapproval of the proposed new restricted parking on Walworth Avenue, which we were promised would be part of the official minutes, there were a number of other property owners and businesses in attendance, either expressing their disapproval or they're in solidarity with those expressing their disapproval of the proposed parking restrictions. They included Bill Gage and his representative from Gage Marine and Pier 290, the owners of Green Grocer and Clearwater Spa, Mr. and Mrs. Hobbs, owners of Chippewa Resort, Dan McGovern, owner of 35 North Walworth Avenue, as well as my wife Susan and me. I also requested that the residents and business owners on Walworth Avenue be notified of any future discussions involving restricted parking, including paid parking on Walworth Avenue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. Are there any other public comments? Mr. House, please.
Good evening, Tim Hallis, 134 Elmhurst Court, and no, this is not about parking. But it does kind of tie into that, and it does have to do with the downtown development plan, which I know you all are aware of, that I have sent an email on that. So, and I do expect a response. Dave has said that he was. So, I don't want to go into all that details, but why the need for the comprehensive plan is there's rumors, everything like that going around. There's a piece of property on Walworth Avenue that is being sold, at least that's the rumor, and I believe it is. Developers paying a big boatload of money for it. And from a business standpoint, you would say, well, why would he buy a piece of property that he can't put what he wants to do on that? So why would he, so I'm going to assume he's going to expect that lot be rezoned. So if it tied into the comprehensive plan, the downtown development plan, that would be a straightforward decision, and he would know what he would do, okay? And you guys haven't come up and presented anything like that. So right now, the developers have basically free rein. They're expecting that they're gonna buy land, and you guys are going to grant them zoning changes. So, and if you do, and it kind of ties into other things as far as other issues that you've talked about in the past. So if this development does, it's not gonna be affordable housing. So then how do you start, repopulating the school? So it all ties into that, okay? So I expect, I'm looking forward to your response on the development plan, okay? And then from topography standpoint, I would like to see an update on topography. What's going on? For a project that was so urgent to get done, it's going in at a snail's pace, which gets me concerned. What's going on? There's rumors they don't have enough money. They had to sell condos because their investors got a little nervous, okay? I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I've heard, okay? So my biggest fear on topography is not so much that they don't start work or that they finish it and that they are able to run business. But based on kind of where they're going right now, that time frame now starts to look like it's going to be 2034, 2035 before they're fully up and operational. My major concern, and I'm not sure if the board ever did any type of due diligence or risk analysis or anything like that with Liam and whether or not he could complete the project. My biggest fear is that he gets halfway through it, and you've got a bunch of buildings there that are half done, and then what you guys do. So I'd just like to see some further updates on topography, because there hasn't been, I mean, besides the burning and everything like that, and the grass, and, you know, I'm sure they've gone into and, you know, removed furniture and stuff like that. But for what that project was supposed to be and how urgent it was, they're not really doing anything, and that concerns me. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. House. Any other public comments at this time? There will be one more opportunity, just a few minutes now, towards the end of this agenda. I will move forward. There is going to be one more opportunity this evening to share public comment. So next will be item 7. That's going to be the presentation of accounts and petitions. Our Finance and Personnel Chair, Trustee Wright, will be doing that. Trustee Wright, please.
Thank you, President Caramillo. First item we have is for board consideration and approval is the payroll report ending 5/15/2026, amount of $61,078.03.
We have a first and a second on the motion to approve the payroll ending 05/15/2026. Any questions on the motion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. That motion carries.
Second item is for board approval is the report of accounts payable prepaid dated 5/16/2026, in the amount of $2,970.
The first and a second on the motion to approve the accounts payable prepaids dated 05/16/2026. Any questions on the motion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion carries.
And finally, I present for board approval the report of accounts payable unpaid dated 5/29/2026, the amount of $72,114.84.
And we have a first and a second on the motion to approve the accounts payable unpaid dated 05/29/2026. Any questions on the motion?
I just have an update. The last board meeting, we considered the payment to our auditor, and we suspended that payment pending further review. And the treasurer and the administrator and I did review that in considerable detail. A couple of things. One, there was no duplication, though. In fact, we owed them $80,576.59. But that is down from the previous year. The audit cost us $135,000. The year before that, it cost us $118,000. So still a lot of money, but it's going in the right direction in terms of what that audit costs us to get it done. So I did authorize payment of that invoice.
Right. Thank you, Trustee Wright. Any other questions on the motion or comments?
One question for Dave. I don't know if you know the answer, but there is a refund building permit for almost $12,000. That seemed like, did they cancel or something? How does
I
that work?
believe that was a connection fee. It was for a tear down. They paid a connection fee for water sewer that they did not, were not required to pay. So there was a rebate to them, but I'll confirm it.
Okay, and you will pay for that.
Yeah, I'll send an update to the board.
Okay.
Well, is that all, Trustee Owens? Satisfied? That's it?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? All right. All in favor of the motion to approve the accounts payable unpaid dated 05/29/26, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. That motion carries. All right. Thank you, Trustee Wright. President's remarks. I didn't really have anything for today. I'll hit you guys with something in 2 weeks. Item 9, ordinances and resolutions. Our Building, Zoning, and Ordinance Chair, Trustee Franzen, will be introducing this section. Trustee Franzen, please.
Thank you, President Jaramillo. So the item is R3626, a resolution authorizing the development agreement between the Village of Williams Bay and Yerkes Future Foundation. And on May 18th, the Village Board in closed session reviewed the latest version of the draft development agreement with Yerkes and directed that this draft be provided to Yerkes and made public. On May 19th, the draft agreement was emailed to Yerkes with a request to coordinate with the zoning administrator for potential recommendation and consideration by the Village Board on June 15th. On May 21st, the draft agreement was emailed to neighboring resident Frost Williams, who has requested shares with neighbors. May 22nd, Yerkes attorney Brian Zimmerman provided the May 28th proposed revisions to the draft agreement. May 24th, the draft agreement was posted on the village website with notifications sent to subscribers. May 28th, European representatives and attorney emailed staff and Attorney Schroeder expressing concerns about not being included on the June 2nd Plan Commission agenda. And then May 29th, zoning administrator Allison Schwartz and village administrator David Letzbeig reviewed Turkey's concerns and agreed that the item would not be on the June 2nd Plan Commission agenda with the possibility of a special commission meeting, Plan Commission meeting, should the village board approve the development agreement. So I want to just say that this motion that I'm about to make is for the resolution authorizing the development agreement, but that we still need to have a discussion regarding the development agreement. So I move to approve R36-26, a resolution authorizing the development agreement between the Village of Williams Bay and the Yerkes Future Foundation.
Second, Ross.
All right, we have a first and a second on the motion to approve resolution R3626. So we'll open up for discussion on that motion. And I guess I invite Trustee Franson to start.
Thank you, President Armia. So there seems to be 3 issues remaining to be discussed and finalized on the development agreement. The first is under section 1, item B, motor vehicle traffic using Observatory Place for all access to and from the property, provided that the ability of motor vehicle traffic to utilize Parkhurst Place to exit the property shall be permitted for periods not more than 12 months after the approval of the conditional use permit for construction of the pavilion and playground and related area, at which time the village shall close access to Parkhurst Place from the property except for the access control gate for emergency vehicles only. So the board requested 12 months after the approval of the conditional use permit, and Yerkes is requesting 18 months.
So Susan, what you just read, is that what's in your current one?
This is what's in the current development agreement.
Okay, I don't have that.
The 12 month or the 18 month?
The 12 month is in there, but we also have a red line.
Yeah, the 12 month was not more than 12 months after the effective date of the agreement. And the red line is 18 months after the approval of the conditional use permit for construction of the pavilion and playground and related area.
You were reading the red line, correct?
Yes.
Okay, that's why I
Sorry,
had the
my
red line on
apologies.
here,
So the question is, do we want to grant the 18 months or stay with the 12 months?
Okay, so we have one response from Frost Williams, who checks with all the neighbors, Parkhurst, and they are okay either way, 12 or 18. So I think Parkhurst has been, the exit has been open for, I don't know how many years. An extra 6 months is not gonna make a huge difference. So I, as far as I'm concerned, I can easily go with the 18 months.
So, I have a question. There's actually 2 changes. Correct.
Yeah, that's 2 changes.
Yes.
There's the 18 months versus 12 months, but then it also adds after the approval of the conditional use permit for construction of the pavilion and playground and related area, which I would have an issue with. I could agree maybe with Trustee Humans on the 18 months, but not with tying it to a conditional use permit approval.
That's how I see it too. I mean, I know we've gone back and forth on this quite a bit, and I know in the meetings we said we don't want to tie it. And I think it's fair to give them 18 months. And I think we're out here, you're right, we've been dealing with this for how long? It takes an extra 6 months to get this done.
Yeah.
I think that,
So there's 3 issues, and so kind of touching on the third one already about the pavilion and the other buildings. And that actually is in the resolution also. So if you want, can we tackle that one now? Because that would be the third wetland issue on this one. And,
well, I was trying to do one at a time, so we.
yeah, go one at a time, then I'll just do my comments.
Thank you. So Yerkes had originally asked for 24 months. The board had require 12 months. I think 18 months is a reasonable compromise. Right?
I don't. Yerkes Future Foundation is able to raise money to plant tulips up front of their building. They can certainly raise money to construct this roadway. And I'm not of the mind to grant them 6 months in order to do that. I am willing to grant the other part of that says that it's some period of time after the approval of the conditional use permit, which gives them the right to move forward on their project. So I think it's a reasonable expectation that that clock would start then, but I would restrict it to 12 months.
If the purpose of the language was to set the starting of the clock at, all right, now that we have all of our approvals in place, now we're gonna start the clock, then that changed the language, that's fine with. If the purpose of that change in the language was to, we're not doing anything unless you guarantee this conditional use permit is like guaranteed, then I'm there with that. So, but I agree with the clock.
But that's basically what it does.
Yeah, so it should be worded.
If there's no approval, there's no movement on shutting down parking. They said. But I think they need to be separated.
They are two.
We have
separated.
I guess this question is actually for Dave, point of procedure. Do we have a Yerkes attorney here? I see some suits, that's why I'm asking, okay. Can we bring them up and just have a dialogue if we have questions, or is that not proper right now? We're not negotiating, yeah, because it kind of starts a negotiation, right?
I think if you have questions, that's appropriate, but.
You can ask clarification.
Going back and
But,
forth.
and I think to Steve and Susan's point, or to George's point, the section 4 of the developers agreement says this development agreement is null and void without a conditional use permit. So until the plan commission grants a conditional use permit and the village board approves it, then the development agreement has no effect.
Yeah. So this is a little tricky on on conditional use permit, because I've been thinking about it today. And that is including the pavilion and other buildings. We know nothing about the pavilion or the other
No,
buildings.
it's been the plan all along. The playground has a accessible pavilion, a picnic area, restrooms attached to it.
Not the big building?
Other buildings. So
No, this is
the maintenance building.
No, this is if you look at
I know
all the
about
plans
the
that we've been
little
considering all along, there's a pavilion as part of the plans.
No, not the big pavilion.
Not the big
pavilion
pavilion.
that is attached to in that.
There's gonna be a whole new building on there, that is not included in this, that's, we call that pavilion.
I'm not sure what you're talking about, Rob.
Are you talking about the accessible bathrooms attached to the playground?
There's gonna be an additional, we can talk on the site, welcome center and all that stuff.
No,
That's
this
not part of
is just
it.
attached to the playground. There's a pavilion attached to
Oh,
the
well,
playground
okay.
design. And it has been all along.
Then can I make a comment based on what trustee Ryder said? If we agree to an 18 or 12 month after the approval of the conditional use permit for construction of the pavilion and related playground, I would end it there and leave out and related area because that's too vague to me.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna make a big difference, especially with section 4 in here.
Well, yeah, that's why, with what trustee Ryder said.
And even if that was left out, you go back to here, section 4, so that's almost.
I just
the
don't,
same.
if the conditional use permit gets approved, is it getting approved for pavilion and playground, is it getting approval for a pavilion and playground and related areas? We don't know what.
I'm not sure what related areas are.
All right, Steve,
We know what the pavilion and the playground are.
But the conditional use permit, once it gets approved, will specify what those areas are.
So if they change their application and then all of a sudden the conditional use application, they're coming back with us, the plan commission is different, and now it's playground, pavilion, new entrance and stuff, then we just vote no on conditional use, all this is voided. All start over again. So, but if they come with a clean application, it's the same application.
well then, we're back to trustees, right? And, disagreement between 12 and 18 months, basically.
We can vote on that.
Next.
Okay. So the next item is number 2, private streets. So the board setting constructing a private street to provide access to vehicles exiting the property of Yerkes back to West Geneva Street. The private street will be built to applicable village specifications, regulations, and guidelines for the construction of said street and as approved by the village engineer. Item B, Yerkes shall furnish as-built plans of the private street with the village clerk upon completion thereof. Item C, Yerkes shall be responsible for maintaining all private streets on the property, which shall include a private street constructed as to provide full access back to West Geneva Street as depicted on the attached site sketch plan titled Alternate to Geneva Street Exit Concept and Exhibit C. And item D, Yerkes shall not be required to increase the width of the existing private street on the property. So that was what the village board indicated. Yerkes has come back asking that street be removed and it become a driveway with a exit back to West Geneva Street via Observatory Place. The driveway will be built to applicable law for the construction of the driveway. Yerkes shall furnish as-built plans for the driveway, and Yerkes shall be responsible for maintaining the driveway constructed to provide full access back to West Geneva Street via Observatory Place. So the thought behind that is that the driveway will not be open to the public or publicly accessible except as permitted by Yerkes. So it would be more appropriate from their perspective to use driveway versus street.
Right.
So we discussed this when we were doing the development agreement, and the concern was the level of construction that's required for a driveway versus the street.
On the other hand, it's 100% on private property. If they don't construct the right way, they'll have to replace it. Have to replace it for them. So
We don't consider.
as far as I'm concerned, we can call it driveway.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I mean, if I build a driveway at my house on the cheap, then 3 years later, I'm gonna be redoing it. And if they do the same thing, then they're gonna have to do the same thing.
Any other comments? Okay. And then the last item that the board had in was section 3 for the easement. To facilitate pedestrian and bicycle traffic to and from the property and throughout the adjoining areas, Yerkes agrees to convey to the village an easement of 8 feet in width for a pedestrian and bicycle path adjacent to the west boundary of Constant Boulevard, as is illustrated for demonstrative purposes in Exhibit B. The village shall be responsible for preparing and recording the easement. Further, the village shall be responsible for construction and maintenance of the pedestrian and bicycle path within the easement. Item B, Yerkes shall be permitted to locate and mark the trees they wish to protect adjacent to the west right-of-way of Constant Boulevard. The width of the easement may need to be wider than 8 feet in order to save the trees to be protected while still allowing for the pedestrian path. The timing and materials for the path will be determined by the village at the time of construction of the pedestrian path by the village. And Yerkes is asking that that entire section be struck from the development agreement. However, we did have an 8-foot wide easement for pedestrian use in the Women's Leadership Center, so that it is consistent with what the decisions the board has made in the past. So I'll open that up for discussion.
Just a point of clarification, that easement that on the Women's Leadership Center property that we fought so long for is on the other side of the street.
Right. So what I think is they crossed it off here. I think there's going to be a second development agreement for the other buildings, additional buildings. This is not really related, and it takes a longer discussion. We should just scratch this off and include it in the second development agreement that should be forthcoming. And first of all, we're not going to redo Constance Boulevard until at least 2028, if not later. And that's when all of this comes up.
This is my comment right from the get-go, it's beyond the scope of this agreement. I do understand why it was in there. I mentioned that.
Did this come from our engineer originally?
Yeah,
Yes.
I did, yeah.
Can we ask Doug for his input?
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts, Doug?
I don't know if you want my input, but this is actually the second time we've asked for additional last time we asked for right of way. That was at the time before the Women's Leadership Center went in and before, it was under different ownership. But we had asked to widen Constance at that point in time. And it didn't happen at that point in time. If it doesn't happen at this point in time, that's okay too, but it needs to happen before you widen Constance. And whether it's by easement or they dedicate right of way, it doesn't matter. I don't necessarily want to hold up this job, but you do need to do it before you do Constance.
Well, they might take them until 2030 to apply for another development agreement.
Yeah.
And then we'll be widening Constance without this set. So I think there's no time like the present, and that this is it, and I want to leave it. And that's my opinion.
Sorry, to remain in. I agree.
But I'm cool with 18 months, so I'll give you something there. Any other discussion?
Well, this easement says, the village shall be responsible for construction and maintenance of the pedestrian bicycle path within the easement. Is that something we do or they should do?
I think it depends on how you define maintenance.
If it needs repairs and stuff.
Well, but there's also the issue of snow clearing, something like that.
Okay.
We'd always talked about a path going from there down Constance, driving all the way down there. Right. So if we don't do this, what is our alternative?
I think we could treat the easement like I think the village could be responsible for maintenance. It's like a sidewalk.
Personally, I think we have to be responsible for maintenance. That's the right thing to do. I don't think it should be pushed off on the property owner. Something they don't want, they're not asking for it. It's something that we want. Yeah, it's more work, but the village is growing. It's part of doing business. If you want it, we gotta maintain it.
Yeah, but now, as the rest of all the easements, are those in place yet? I mean, this is not just on the Yerkes property, right? It's a whole lot is needed, right? All the way on Constance?
On the Yerkes property, yes, the entire length of Yerkes property.
Would be the entire length.
Yep.
But is it gonna start at your piece property or is it gonna start up by Geneva Street?
We already have a path through the Park Place development. We have a walking path to the south end of that property.
It's on the,
And we have a walking path at the Women's Leadership Center. This is intended to connect the two.
So if we really don't do this, we've got two sections leading to nowhere.
But the two sections
Oh,
are on
yeah.
the
Kind of like
on the east
bridge
side of the
to
road, and we're talking about the west side. So currently, you're asking people to cross back and forth to follow the
It happens. It happens.
Right now they're
I feel
walking.
like-
Right now they're walking in the middle of the
just
road.
the fact that
Yes,
there's so
yeah, I
many
do.
unresolved questions just tells me that this should just be sidelined for now. I mean,
So
there's
if
just
you
too
don't get
many
it now,
question
when do we
marks.
get it?
Well, there will be other
You
opportunities.
sideline the parking, and then we get people yelling at us about that. We can't sideline. We have to
You
get
can't
stuff
sideline
done.
everything. We gotta move forward with stuff. It's becoming a do nothing.
Yeah, do nothing. Don't do
Okay, so
tourism commission. Don't do this.
Yerkes remains open to providing an easement, but we will need additional details, which are not conductive to the time schedule for completing the conditional use permit. I kind of dial into that one.
Any,
We're,
keep it moving.
we're giving up 12 months for 18 months, leaving the verbiage associated with that. You're switching from streets to driveway construction, which I think street construction was recommended by the village engineer. I say for Yerkes to win 2 out of 3 is not bad. The easement should stay in.
And we're trying to make the area safer. I mean, like, President said, we got people walking down the street. Well, eventually we gotta widen it. If we don't have these easements in place, what have we solved? Nothing.
Have you investigated an easement on the east side all the way down continuously?
Well, then maybe go ahead and do that, but in the meantime, we ought to secure this. We can
We
always.
invested this one, our engineer invested this
We don't
one,
have to.
we have the verbiage drawn up, and we have a development agreement drafted for us.
My concern is we sit here spinning our wheels.
And
I've never seen us before not take action on things.
granting an easement doesn't guarantee anything other than the right to do something.
Exactly.
It gives us the right to build something on the property, doesn't say we are or we have or we're going to. And we could negotiate for an easement on the other side of the street and exercise that one.
Right.
But this is a placeholder for the west side of the street. And yes, it needs more detail outlined in it, but by the time we get down to drafting an easement document, the detail will have to be provided.
Does anyone want to add anything else before we call a vote? So I guess we could summarize the changes. Do you want to summarize the changes? Alrighty. I'm not trying to take over. I think we're still in your ordinances and resolutions section here.
So to summarize the changes, what we're looking at is potentially accepting the request for 18 months of approval after the conditional use permit for the construction of the pavilion and playground, striking and related area.
You can,
You want to leave that in?
yeah, I went down with, it's in, it says that in the conditional use site plans, it's the same verbiage, conditional use.
Okay. All right, so accepting that request for item 1B, accepting driveway to replace the request from the village board for streets, and leaving in section 3 for the easement. Did I miss anything?
You got it.
All right, so the original motion to begin these discussions was to approve it as it was drafted. So we will need to make an amended motion to accept the changes, right?
Maybe we do amend the motion.
Yeah, because right, we were discussing because we had made a motion to approve it as written, but we are going to accept some of these, so. You want to take us out of that motion, the amendment motion?
Okay, I'll make a motion to amend the development agreement under section 1, section B, from 12 months to 18 months after approval of the playground area. Did I get all that? Yeah, the playground area. And also under section 2D, changing street to driveway.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second, Brandon.
We have a first and a second. The motion to amend the draft development agreement to change 18 months, 12 months to 18 months, and to, as read by trustee Block. Make sure everything else right. Sorry, and to change the word street back to driveway were the two big changes. Did I get that? I think, yeah. Tina, I'm sorry, the clerk is the one that really to get that done. Do we have that? Do we have it all worded right? Okay. Any further discussion on the motion to amend the motion?
Is the 18 months tied to the development agreement or the conditional use permit? So we talked about those two different dates, two different starting points.
Oh, yeah.
I think the decision was since item 4 4 addresses.
Conditional use permit.
conditional use permit, we can tie it to the conditional use.
Just, it probably should be clarified.
The timing is when we approve the conditional use from 15th.
Is when the 18 months start.
Except we need to change the language in 1B, because it right now says effective date of this agreement.
I just want to say, if we vote, if this gets voted down, there's very little chance that we will go. I'm gonna vote for it, the way it is.
Okay, we need to make sure that we have the motion amended correctly. So you can't amend the amendment, right? So we have to vote on the amendment. Can you withdraw? Who made the motion?
I can
Can you guys withdraw? Are you willing to withdraw and reword?
I'll withdraw.
In the seconder, trustee Franklin, you agree to withdraw?
I agree.
Thank you.
We tried again. Here, just read the section 1.
So I'd make a motion that we amend the wording in the development agreement under section 1B, change 12 months to 18 months after the approval of the conditional use permit for construction of the pavilion and playground and related area. And also under section 2D, change the word street to driveway.
Second, Franklin.
We have a first and a second on the motion to amend the motion as read by trustee Block. Any further questions on this now amended motion, on the amendment? Okay, all in favor of the motion to amend, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no.
I'm abstaining.
We have one abstention from trustee Bartholomew. All right, so the motion, the amendment motion does pass, and now we're back to the now amended motion of adopting R 3626. Any further discussion on the motion to the now amended motion? Okay, let's do a roll call, please. Tina.
President Carnahan,
Aye.
trustee Bartholomew,
Abstain.
trustee Newman.
Aye.
Trustee Wright,
Aye.
trustee Black,
Aye.
trustee Russell.
Aye.
Trustee Franklin.
Aye.
And that motion carries.
From a process perspective, none of this goes back to the plan commission to consider the condition.
Yeah, so from a process perspective, they have to accept our changes, you know, we're still doing this back and forth. But if they do accept it and they sign it, then we can look to get a special plan commission meeting, try to put on the books before the next village board meeting, so that we can move this along for y'all. I'll have to check with, just to make sure that we have all of our notifications correctly, that we'll be able to move that fast. But
We already did the public hearing.
that's right. So I'll work with staff to get you on the calendar ASAP, provided the plan commissioners are available. All right. Well, thank you, trustee Franzen. We got through that. Item 10, this is going to be our last opportunity for public comments this evening. So if you have a public comment or a question you'd like answered at a future meeting, please step up, say your name, share your comment.
Oh, I'd hate to let you down.
All right.
I'm Shaughnessy, 45 Lakeview Drive. The property that is to the south of the Green Grocer on Walworth and Geneva, is there anything you can do to get rid of that eyesore on the community? Guy has cars parked there, they're like a revolving parking lot. There's a car that's been there about 2 months just sitting, and he has these horses he keeps moving around. Why can't that property be fixed, or have him put some lipstick on the pig or something to make it look decent for the community?
I missed the first part. I didn't catch the address. Which property is this?
It's on Walworth and Geneva Streets
Okay,
on the
yeah.
southeast, the southwest corner.
Thank you, Mr. Shaughnessy. Any other public comments this evening? We do offer the opportunity to share public comments at all of our regular village board meetings, the first and third Mondays of every month. Additionally, all of our emails are public and a lot of our phone numbers are too, so you're always welcome to reach out to any of the trustees up here with anything, and you can get an answer probably right there on the phone, so. All right, with that, Chair would look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved, right? Second.
All right, is there first and a second on the motion to adjourn? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. We are adjourned. And now I'd like to call to order the joint meeting of the Village Board, Committee of the Whole, and Committees of Monday, June 1st, 2026. The clerk give the roll call again, please.
President Aramio.
Present.
Trustee Bartholomew. Here. Trustee Newman.
Here.
Trustee Wright.
Present.
Trustee Black.
Aye.
Trustee Russell.
Yeah.
Here.
A little more confusing than I thought it would. Considering it was even the second roll call of the night, but okay. All right, we still have a quorum. We have one set of Committee of the Whole meeting minutes to approve. Those are the meeting minutes from May 4th, 2026. Chair would look for a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the joint Village Board Committee of the Whole Committee meeting minutes of May 4th.
We have a first. Is there a second?
Second, right?
All right, we have a first and a second on the motion to approve the Committee of the Whole meeting minutes of May 4th, 2026. Any questions, comments, or corrections to the minutes? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Okay, that motion carries. All right, and now we will move committee by committee. So first up is going to be our Water and Sewer Committee, and that is going to be Trustee Uman, please.
I'm gonna call to order the Water and Sewer Committee, Trustee Russell, Bartholomew, and myself right here. For the roll call, first item on the agenda is item number C, discussion and possible action on the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources Maintenance Annual Report. And so, this is, I don't know if anybody had a chance to look at that.
I scrolled through it.
This is an annual report that is required by the DNR. So I had a, where's that?
He said, okay.
Oh, there it is. I had a couple questions on it. On the top, it says 26, it should be 25.
It's resolution for year 2026, but it should be for the 25 CMAR, yes.
Yeah.
I did not review that, sorry.
Okay, so Tina, can you change that?
I'll make sure it's changed.
Okay. Then on the last page, it says resolution R 3526, and that was last year's number 35. This is resolution number 40. So this report is due June 30th. You got an A rating. Actually, I have one more question. Item number 4, future planning, it says no, but you have the project descriptions. Shouldn't we be saying yes?
Future long-term facilities planning, you don't have any in the works, but you are planning some improvements. So I listed those projects in there that you are planning for the next 5 years.
Yeah, so shouldn't it be marked yes instead of no?
I can mark it either way, but you're not starting any formal planning for sewer service.
Okay.
So I
just want
marked
to be
it no.
consistent because last year we had marked yes.
Yep.
And we had some projects.
I can change that if you wish. It doesn't matter to me.
I think we should,
Be
be
consistent.
consistent, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, does anybody have any questions on this?
No.
No? So, I think this goes to the village board, right? Steve, do you have any questions?
No.
Okay, anybody else? I think this goes to the village board, so I make a motion to recommend village board approval of the, CMAR report for the year 2025.
Second.
Second, and the other, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so that one goes. Next, you're up, Doug, for the, next item is the item number D, village engineers report.
Yes, I have a 3-page engineering report. Most of the projects have been no change since last month, but I will go through just a few where there are some changes. First, I removed it from the list, but well 3 is up and operational, has a new pump in it, and you'll see the final pay application next month. The corrosion control study, the improvements to the water plant, we're doing another walkthrough on June 10th. And then they should be able to submit for final payment. Park Place CSM, we're still waiting for Jack Keys to get some asphalt to the site. Supposedly he's getting put off by one of the subcontractors. And the last one that's got some movement to it is Willow Bay Meadows subdivision. We're hearing that there's a DOT approval out there, and I'm trying to collect all the DOT correspondence related to it, because it may require some final engineering and some plat changes to make it approvable.
Was that something that goes back to the village board?
I don't know the correct process for that. We're gonna meet at staff level after we have all the information from the developer that we're requesting. So we'll make that decision at staff level based upon the information we get from the DOT and everything else.
This pertains to the access on Route 50.
Part of it, we don't know quite all, they had more stormwater issues in Route 50 than anything else. So it changed the stormwater design, and I don't know yet if it's gonna change the final plat.
Oh, sure.
So as far as the water plant is concerned, we just wait, I guess?
Well, we got another meeting on June 10th to do a walkthrough. The last time I went through there, it was pretty rough yet as far as the paint and stuff. It's just a final walkthrough. If he can, and then he's getting his final payment application to me right now. If the walkthrough is successful, you should see that in late June, the final payment recommendation. Anybody have any questions on any part of
The
it?
long-standing street rehabilitation dispute with Rock Road, how do we resolve that?
Yeah,
Right now, it's with the attorneys, and my recommendation was terminate them, but we're not going that route. I believe the attorneys are gonna try to work it out. But all the terms that I mentioned to you are still part of that negotiation.
Thank you.
You're ahead on money, so,
I know we are, but I'd like to close out the project.
yep, I agree.
okay, so there was actually, we kind of maybe can touch a little bit on the preserve. So there actually, as far as the bidding process is concerned, there are two parts to it. The private parts, all the buildings that go up, that they have to bid out.
Yeah, all the private sanitary type stuff, all that, anything dealing with private connections, private buildings, all the mass grading for anything that's not a public right of way, that's all part of a bid package that I haven't seen yet. And I'm really not getting any questions from contractors, so I don't think it's out there yet.
Okay.
And they were gonna do that before they presented a final public package to me, and I haven't seen either one.
Okay. All right, any questions?
No.
No? Steve?
No.
Anybody else? No?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Doug.
Okay, that's it. So I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second motion.
First, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.
All right, thank you, trustee Umens. Next up will be the Streets and Highways Committee, and that's going to be trustee Bartholomew, please.
Call to order the Streets and Highway Committee, and note that trustees Bartholomew, Franklin, and Wright are all in attendance. There's only one item on our agenda for tonight, which is just to approve the meeting minutes from the April 1st meeting that we held at the library. And I want to thank Joyce Snoop, the head librarian, for hosting us that morning, because the room was busy, being used as the early voting location. So we had to relocate to a different place, and we had a fantastic turnout. Over 25 people were there, and we had people from all over the downtown area in attendance. And there were a few items that were missing from the original meeting minutes, and so we thought rather than just trying to list them all off, we would just rewrite them and just come back here we are tonight doing that. One of them was that we were missing a few people from our list. So we wanted to note that the village engineer Doug Snyder and library director Joy Schnupp were there, and that's now in the meeting minutes. We also wanted to note that it was not a unanimous vote to rescind the motion to put 2-hour parking. There was one no vote, and so now the meeting minutes correctly reflect that. In addition, we had a lot of letters, emails sent to us, and I believe I've seen in other times where the village president or committee chair has requested that those be attached to the meeting minutes, and so I made that request, and so those are now part of the meeting minutes as well. And then the last thing that I asked to include in the meeting minutes was to make mention that the live stream was not functioning at that meeting. I know that it's frustrating when you see something that's supposed to be there and you have to click on the link and it doesn't go, and you don't know why it's not working. So I asked to please have it added that the meeting was not live streamed due to technical difficulties, and so that was also added. And I would just like to kind of throw it out, since this is a COW meeting, and we can kind of throw this topic out to the larger group, and suggest that other committee chairs do that as well in your meeting minutes. If there is a technical difficulty, and if the meeting is for some reason not being live streamed or being videotaped via YouTube, that it be mentioned in the meeting minutes. So I didn't want to set precedent here, but I do think it's important. I mean, we mentioned if a trustee isn't in attendance, it seems like you should also mention if the video isn't in attendance. So I just asked for that to be included as well. So I will make a motion approving the meeting minutes as corrected, and hopefully we'll get a second.
Second, right?
There's a second. Any more conversation or discussion on it? Great. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm abstaining, I was not at that.
Motion carries. Thank you. So we can put that to rest for now. And then I'm going to make a motion to adjourn.
Second, right?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. You're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, trustee Bartholomew. The next committee will be our Parks and Lakefront Committee, and that is chaired by trustee Russell.
I'll call to order, personally from committee, trustees Russell, Red, and Locke are all present. Item number 1 is discussion and possible action on a request for a refund on boat slip agreement for Slip West Pier 2. It's resident Sharon Nance, 68 Oakwood Street, submitted a letter on May 11th, 2026, informing the village she's selling her home, moving out of Williams Bay, and requested a slip lease agreement to cancel and refunded $2,852 annual fee. So I'm just going to cut to the chase. I'm going to make a motion recommending approval of a request for refund on boat slip lease agreement for Slip West Pier 2, conditional upon leasing West Pier 2 to another leasee who pays the fee.
I'll second for discussion in that.
Okay. So, discussion.
Do we have, Steve or Tina, do we have any written policy or anything pertaining to anything like this? I've never heard of it happening before.
We do the lease as
Release that's non-refundable? All right. I can understand the reason for maybe wanting to refund it, but, and you made it contingent upon releasing it. So we're already into the season. So I guess my question would be, how do we handle the situation if this is approved? How do we handle the situation if a new person steps up and says, I want my lease prorated? Are we gonna prorate that? No, we'll still charge the full amount.
Yes,
Move down the list, someone will pay.
this was a 23-foot slip. This would be the only 23-foot slip available. So I would anticipate, and I talked to Cynthia Stanek earlier, I would anticipate, I asked her to make this a priority, and I would anticipate that this slip would be released almost immediately. So we will be making, okay, that was my command. That's all I had. Any other questions? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that'll go to, I believe, finance. You gotta go finance?
That's what it says.
Yeah, I think it was.
I think so.
Yeah. All right, next item is discussion of possible action on a waiver of fees for village events and village-owned properties. This really goes to, there was an event at the beach hosted by the library, and I believe, was it Emily? Wound up using her own punch cards to get people in onto the beach because they were charging. So I'm gonna make a motion, I'm gonna make a motion in a certain way, and then we can discuss it. I'm gonna make a motion recommending approval of waiver of fees for village department events at village-owned properties. I'll second. All right, any discussion?
I think that's a little broad, Steve. And what comes to mind is the movies in the park.
Those are after hours, which is closed.
I'm sorry.
It's after hours, there's no charge. Okay. The reason I didn't want to make it a staff thing, I don't like the term just village events, because everything's a village event. But if it's done, you can take the example, the rec department sets up a whole bunch of things at the Lions Fieldhouse, and they don't go through the process of renting the field house for the different projects.
Right.
So some of this is already being done. But I think, in a community like ours and the importance of the library, if the library's got something during the daytime and they want to use the beach for that purpose.
I'm not opposed to the concept. I just want to make sure that we're not giving away the story.
Yeah, and so, if Wayne wants to use the field house one day for a meeting or a luncheon, I don't think we'd be charging him either. So,
I don't think we should be charging, village-sponsored events. I mean,
yeah,
that's what we have this up there for.
Yeah, I didn't want to say village-sponsored events either.
We don't really sponsor it.
Because we could sponsor a number of different, or be a sponsor in an event. I mean, if we contributed to, fireworks,
Then that's a village event.
event, yeah. So, we wouldn't want free admittance into the point in time.
No, I would put a damper on it.
Wouldn't it?
Yeah. The end of that event.
So I don't know, I think that's, or we could amend this to library functions if we just want to be.
No, I think the distinction was, as I look at the administrator's notes here, it specifically references beach fees. Are we just talking about beach fees?
No, it's not.
No, I think we're talking.
For the reason that was pointed out earlier, the village's use of Lions Fieldhouse, it just has never been a charge, but let's just confirm that and clarify so that when we have new events that are village department events, we're not questioning if we have to pay that.
Harbor Commission should have a couple of boats out on the water to go do an analysis of piers, lifts, and buoys. If I was to bring my boat down and have to launch it, I would have to pay to launch it to go do a village function. So I think it would be reasonable that as a department, you're not charged that fee.
Are you gonna be inspecting every day?
No.
Fishing pole.
Yeah.
No. I'm open to an amendment on it.
Tell me again what your motion was, Steve.
My motion was approval of the waiver of fees for village department or departmental events at village-owned properties.
Okay, that works for me.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so that'll go to finance. And then informational only, and I think Joy, are you sitting over there?
I'm sitting over here.
Would you like to just say what this is about instead of me trying to,
Interpret.
yeah.
So basically, this is, it's just a draft that the library board has not yet approved. We don't need until next Tuesday. but we wanted to put it in front of you because it does involve renovations, possible renovations to some existing structure, renovations inside, but also could be, say, an awning to the entrance, things like that. Basically, all this document is asking for RFPs from architectural firms that are specifically library related or have experience with libraries. We're trying to get 3 or 4 of them just to see, run some ideas by us, tell them what we think we need and go from there. But we had a meeting, Dave and Lowell and I, who else was there? Ralph Cincinnati, who was a retired architect on my library board, actually had come up with the initial idea, and then Dave gave us the guidelines that the village uses. So this is just our tweaked rendition of what you normally use. And we wanted you all to be aware of it, and then we'll keep you apprised as things go. Again, you don't need until next Tuesday.
Thank you, Joe.
That was library. Library would be paying for this study.
Yes.
Can I ask a question?
Proposal.
So in your, I just wondered, where's Hans Parkle?
That was my question too. I think that's a mistake. It needs to be, I have no clue. That was in the original, and I questioned that myself, so that's.
So I'm just seeing things highlighted in yellow, so
Those are my questions.
that you were, we have here. Okay.
Yeah. And so when the board does, my library board, when they vote on this, they will be approving the document. Just help me out, Dave. It's just the approval of. Authorizing, thank you, not approval, but just authorization to be able to use it.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
It was informational only, no motion. And then finally, discussion of possible action on the ad hoc tree committee, phase 4, dog park 2026 tree planting. Approval of banner to promote a memorial tree program, including a memorial brick and approval of fundraising amount. Should have had that attached to the agenda. I'm gonna ask trustee Lumens to kind of summarize it because I was not at the
You were not at the meeting, but that's why I wrote this is a memo kind of.
Okay.
So I can read that actually. On May 14th, we had a tree enhancement committee meeting and a joint tree enhancement and parks and memorial advisory committee meeting. The main purpose of the joint meeting was to have discussion and possible action on memorial tree plantings in phase 4 in the dog park. A motion was made to recommend village board approval of up to 15 trees, with 10 trees planted now with a tree committee and 5 to be reserved for future use of the Parks and Memorial Committee. And so that's where we left it off last time. There were 2 issues. When we had this here, and it was only on the ad hoc tree committee, and it was not on any other committees on the agendas. Feedback was, we gotta get the Parks and Memorial Committee involved and get their input on it, which we did. And then on the other feedback was, we gotta get more details exactly on what kind of trees needed to be planted, details on the memorial brick and the banner we already had. Some of that stuff we already had. So on May 28th, the Tree Enhancement Committee had a follow-up meeting to work out the details, such as the selection of the trees, and they are 5 different ones: red oak, swamp, white oak, sugar maple, hackberry, and ginkgo. Number of trees for each, the small and the large dog park section. And so we have 10 trees for the ad hoc tree committee. It would be 6 would be at the large dog park, and 6 for the small dog park. Memorial brick details, and so I have Steve and I both looked into that part. There's no shortage of companies that make memorial bricks, and so what I found out is if you order 100, you can get you have input what goes on it, obviously, and it would be $18. And if you order one, it goes up to $50. They come basically in two sizes, 4x8 and 8x8. And so the FTAC 3 committee recommended 8x8, the larger size, and they would run about, say, $50 to $65 a piece. And then we have an application, and then we also put together an application for a memorial tree at a dog park, which I have asked actually for that to be included, and that was not on your agenda. But it looks like this: when somebody calls, then Tina has a list, and they have to sign on it, exactly what they want on the brick. And so the whole thing would be as far as financing is concerned, it doesn't change. We were gonna ask $800 for the tree planting, the memorial brick, and all of that. Obviously, it would cost us $800, it would cost us about half. And that would then support the next part, since donations have basically come to a total standstill, would keep us going for a little bit, and we didn't have to, right now, we don't have a budget item. I'm gonna have to go to finance and ask to release that $4,000 that we last year earmarked, but was not officially released. Any other questions on this?
Did the committee decide to put the banner? One banner at the dog park?
Just one,
So I'll make a motion recommending approval of the ad hoc tree committee phase 4 dog park 2026 tree plantings banner to promote the memorial tree program, including the memorial brick and fundraising amount. Is there a second? Discussion at least? I'll second it. Discussion. Well. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Dave, that indicates go to the board next.
Yeah, it's
Okay. And with that, I'll make a motion to adjourn. I'll second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
All right, thank you, Trustee Russell. The next committee will be our Building, Zoning, and Ordinance Committee. Trustee Franzen, please.
Thank you, President Jaramillo. Calling to order the Building, Zoning, and Ordinance Committee. Trustees Franzen, Walker, Russell are present. The first item is Village Code parking regulations. It's an informational update. I wish that Jack Jones had stayed with us so that he could hear some of the things that have been changed. So in our last discussion, we talked about having the behavioral parking ordinance and then the zoning parking ordinance. And so I decided to tackle the behavioral parking ordinance first, which is with the village zoning administrator as well to review, but wanted to share that with the public as well as with this committee. I want to say that these potential changes include recommendations from Streets and Highways, from the discussions that they've had. And also, I want to thank Trustee Bartholomew for facilitating conversations with community leaders, business owners regarding employee parking. So sometimes it's about an ordinance and sometimes it's about giving the community time to come to solutions on their own. And I believe that that's what Trustee Bartholomew facilitated. The proposed revisions to this parking ordinance, it's ordinance number 345, vehicles and traffic, leaves the bulk of the ordinance in place, but adds some specific areas. So one, it consolidates parking regulations, it preserves existing enforceable regulations, it adds some tools for residential parking and residential neighborhood protection, it addresses increasing tourism and lake-related parking impacts. It gives us authority, it gives the board authority for employee parking management and resident permit parking if that's a direction you decide to go. And it reduces the need for repeated ordinance amendments for the individual streets. So specifically, the changes are in section D, residential protection and street-specific parking regulations, and in section E, trailer and oversized vehicle restrictions. So what this does, under section D is, talks about residential permit parking areas and the board's authority to, establish residential permit parking in locations where commercial activity, tourism, lake access traffic, et cetera, may exist, to protect neighborhood character. These could include things like permit-only parking, time-limited parking, seasonal restrictions, or other measures to protect those residential neighborhoods. And rather than coming back to the board or the BZO committee every time there wants to be change, this ordinance proposes that everything becomes effective on the placement of an official sign. So the board would really just need to say, we want to put a sign on the street that restricts this type of parking. Section 2, under that, also talks about employee restrictions, allowing the village board to prohibit or restrict employee parking on designated residential streets or written designated residential parking protected areas. Also, just need the signage for that. Lower than new parking restrictions, basically kept that the same, but again, added the official signage because we know that on the north side of Walworth, there was a discrepancy between what was in the ordinance and what was, is the signage says, and so, the Streets and Highways Committee brought that to my attention. And then additional street parking restrictions, and event-related parking management. We didn't have anything in the prior ordinance about that. So that's the one section. And then trailer and oversized vehicle restrictions really addresses the loading and unloading, and the boat trailer parking. We had a lot of complaints from people on Cherry Street of boat trailer parking. So wanted to give an option there to restrict that during the season, May 1 to September 30. No overnight parking of boat trailers on residential streets, and that, they can park in the municipal trailer parking areas that are designated for that. And then oversized vehicles, no parking or leaving standing any oversized vehicle except for active loading, unloading, or service activity. So again, everything else is very similar. I do have questions about the fact that penalties and enforcement show up in multiple places. We have a section on parking meters, but we don't have parking meters. So those are all things that I think, details that still need to be ironed out, but this is an initial draft. I wanted to see if you have any comments or feedback that should go into that as Allison begins and continues her review.
So what was the yellow?
The yellow,
Things that you were questioning?
yeah, the yellow were things that I was questioning. So that was the penalties appearing in multiple places. Yeah, we
Why-
typically don't put forfeiture in an ordinance that comes someplace else. So.
Why the restrictions on trailer parking? Not that I'm against it, but why the decision that?
The boat trailers?
Yeah, because as of today, I think the only place you can park a car with a trailer is on Elkhorn.
Yeah, there were complaints from residents on Cherry Street
So,
that people were parking boat trailers there.
could result in a reduction in boat launch revenue. Because if you make it, at that point, you make it launch and leave Williams Bay, once everything's full.
If we don't have municipal parking.
Yeah, I'm not against it, I'm not saying I'm against it, I'm just saying it's an impact
That's a
on,
good point.
it will be an impact on.
There's usually a lot of room at the Lions.
Well,
Not, there's still a lot of room there.
well, weekends are just bad.
Yeah.
During the weekdays, it's not an issue, but.
Again, I think we got to remember,
I think
everything doesn't revolve around the boat launch.
Well, that's not what I'm saying.
No, but I'm saying it.
But that's not what I said.
I'm saying it. I think we got to look at the big picture.
I'm saying in the past, I've sat down at Parks and Lakefront committee meetings and try to come up with ways to regulate traffic along Geneva Street that gets blocked off and find ways to find alternate places to stage people. And I have even recommended no trailer parking on any residential street. If you go back and look at the minutes from previous meetings a year ago, 2 years ago, I've made this recommendation in the past. I'm just asking, just to make sure we all understand what happens when we make these changes. my own comment.
Yeah, so that's definitely something we want to consider before we create a ordinance. Any other comments, from any of the board members on the draft?
I got one email that was not happy about the book show parking on residential, like, by banning it. He
Not
said
happy about banning it, or
he wants to be able to park his boat,
his own?
trailer on the street. Cause he gets it all ready like Friday night and he parks it, and then all he has to do is get in and try it on the boat launch, go in Saturday morning. And he was like, I mean, just saying, I had to get a letter from throwing it out there since we're discussing it.
No, that's good feedback. Thank you. I've got a question. How do you know that their employees, like, you're restricting employee parking on some residential streets? How do you know if they're employees that are parking?
We don't. I think that's a conversation with the business owners. I know that you've had conversations and they have an alternative to parking on residential streets right now as a result of those conversations, at least for the summer months. In the winter, that might be a different story if there's not enough lighting to get them to and from the parking areas that they're using in the summer. But I think it's having continued conversations with those business owners and making sure their employees are not parking on those residential streets. And part of the challenge is, you restrict parking, somebody comes in and spends 3 or 4 hours at a business downtown. As soon as they leave, there's another car that comes right in, so it's kind of hard to police all of that. But this gives us an opportunity to say, we could put up a sign that says no employee parking on these particular streets, and it becomes effective as soon as the sign goes up versus having to go through all the processes.
And then also, regarding, North Walworth, so currently the 2-hour parking restriction on the books goes just to Cherry Street, just between Geneva and Cherry. But if you go in there, out there and walk, you'll see that actually there's 2-hour restricted parking signs, displayed all the way up to Olive Street. So by what you're saying here then, is the signs would take precedent over the what's on the books.
Right, the ordinance would not specifically state where it starts and stops. It would be, the signs would be what governs that.
Okay. Because I mean, it's confusing, because if they write a ticket, and they look at the books and it's not on the books, what kind of legal precedent do we have, to enforce that, so.
Well, I think you would have an ordinance that says, it talks about parking, and it would say that however it's worded, but it would say that it's governed by the signs that are posted.
Right.
So they would refer to ordinance 10-1, and 10-1 says these are the parking restrictions as outlined by the signs on those streets.
Yeah, I mean, there's a statement right now that in the draft that says restrictions established pursuant to this section shall become effective upon placement of the signage. So the signage would govern where those parking restrictions are, which I think might even make it easier for our police department to recognize versus having to look at the ordinance and say, okay, on this specific street, what is the parking ordinance? So.
Makes it easy for a resident to make a sign and stick it up to.
And it'd be in violation of chapter 345. That's how, am I wrong, chief, or?
No, you're correct.
I've done this a couple times.
It's official signage, not residential signage. So any other questions or comments? Okay,
It just makes it easier.
thank you for that feedback. I appreciate it. And then the second item is building inspectional services. So the village sent out an RFP for building inspector services. We received responses from 3 prospective companies, Municipal Code Enforcement, 3C, and Safe Built being our current building inspecting company. And the Building Zoning and Ordinance Committee is meeting tomorrow morning with those 3 respondents to interview them. So just an update that once we get through that interview process, we will be able to make a decision on what direction we're going with building inspection services. So with that, I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are now adjourned.
Thank you, trustee Franzen. Next up will be our Protective Services Committee, and that's chaired by trustee Block, please.
So I'll call to order the Protective Services Committee meeting. President are myself, trustee Humans, and trustee Franzen. First item for discussion is discussion and possible action on the application from the Williams Bay Business Association for a temporary Class B license to sell fermented malt beverages during the Fiesta by the Lake event on June 20th, 2026. So did everybody get a copy of it? Any questions about it?
So, yes, so I made a request a while back, that we have addresses where it says names and addresses on the form, and, you know,
Yeah, it's all empty.
addresses indicated here, so I think we need to have a process where we're double checking that everything is completed on the form before it comes to the committee.
I think I know a couple of those, like, off the top of my head.
Right, I mean, it's the transition from small town where everybody knows where everybody lives to, you know, just making sure that our documentation is correct.
And it does say to list the addresses. So, Tina, can you just kind of double check that in the future for us? Thank you. Absolutely.
So the WVBA has reserved Edgewater Park for the 19th through the 21st. They only want this on the 20th.
Double check it. Just a,
We have the WVA treasurer here. As you can see,
Oh, Sam.
Yeah.
You mind stepping up for us? We know you, but can you give us your name and address?
And your address, yeah.
Sam Lasani, I actually do not live in the village anymore, unfortunately. My parents do though. Do you just want like a background of what we're doing, or
Sure.
answer your question? Yeah, so originally this was gonna be like the Scandinavian Fest, I believe, and that kind of fell apart, so now it's the Fiesta by the Lake taking over for Cinco de Mayo because of the weather being questionable beginning of May. It's just one event. It's from noon to 7. It's not gonna be like Corn Brat Festival. It is, you know, if any went to Cinco de Mayo last year, we met with Chief Tim. We have borders lined up for like the trucks and all that are gonna create a border, and then we have fencing with one entrance. We're gonna have wristbands and very minimal alcohol sales, but instead of having our vendors sell the beer, we figured as a fundraising, you know, we take our shot at it, so.
And I know I don't have to remind you, but you'll have somebody with an operator license and stuff.
I did get that, yeah, so this is my first time, so I kind of got that first, and then I was reminded that I need this too, so I appreciate you guys bringing this up so quickly with short notice, but yeah, we have that, so we're good to go on that part.
All right, so just to confirm, we really just need to approve it for the 1 day.
Just 1 day, yeah.
Okay. All right. And I think we should put times in there. Whoever makes a motion, we should put times in there. So,
What was the time, Jim?
12 p.m. to 7 p.m.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Go on one second.
I just had a quick question for Tina, and I guess kind of for Sam too. For the operator license, do they have the full operator license and they're gonna be supervising, or do they have individual temporary operator?
But it's the same.
But we're good. Okay. I guess, yeah, I should ask Chief actually, yeah. All right, that was my question. She answered.
All right, Rob, I guess you're up.
Make a motion to approve the application, for the Williams Bay, from the Williams Bay Business Association for a temporary Class B license to sell fermented malt beverages during the Fiesta of the Lake event on June 20th from 12 to 7.
Second, Brandon?
You got a first and second. Any further discussion?
I just want to say, last year at the Cinco de Mayo, they had built a fencing, and there was one lady that did not leave a post. I was watching her, and I was there for a couple hours. She would not leave. Nobody got in and out, like, unlike the Lions Club.
Maybe we should have her doing training for other events.
Exactly. So it was all very nice.
All right, any further discussion? If not, I'll make the call. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Next item we have is discussion and possible action on the application from the Williams Bay Fire Department for a temporary Class B license to sell fermented malt beverages during the chicken roast event on July 18th, 2026. Okay. Everybody have a copy of that?
Yes, same issue there on the addresses.
You gotta get the addresses in. All right. Any other? No, nothing. So I make a motion that we approve the temporary Class B license for the Williams Bay Fire Department, which will be held on July 18th, 2026. We need any times, Doug? What time do you start?
We start serving at noon,
So
we serve for food until we run out, so another 7 until 8,
8 o'clock?
8 or 9.
All right. So from 11 to 9, 3 hours.
I'll second that.
We got first and a second. Any further discussion? Now I'll make the call. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. Next item we have on discussion, you should have a whole pack in front of you. It is discussion and possible action on 2026 alcohol tobacco license renewals. It's a big packet. So every year it comes in and they have to renew their liquor license and all the other license come up yearly. So you should have a list in front of you about all the Class B malt beverages and Class B intoxicating. You should also have a list for the Class B fermented malt beverage and Class B intoxicating liquors. And then you'll also have a list of the Class A fermented and Class A intoxicating. And then you will also have Class B for fermented malt beverages and Class C. And then combination Class B fermented malt beverage and above quota Class B intoxicating liquor license. That would be for Yerkes Future Foundation, which we had a discussion on that, I'm gonna say about a month ago, give or take. And then we also have some of the cigarette, tobacco, and electronic vaping renewals. So does anybody first off have any questions about the different classes?
I have a
Because it
question.
gets confusing.
Yeah, I have a question on, no, but just on the one is up for approval.
Mhm.
So 2 West Geneva Street is what that's for the Privado, I call it the Privado building, right? Am I correct? Okay, so I thought there was a license for that.
It is number 3. Yeah.
Yeah. So it says you're doing, but it hasn't been open for a long time. And
Yeah.
isn't that, if you don't use it for a year, that you have to turn it in or something?
Yeah, I believe that one has been removed from tonight's list. And will
This
be
has been
addressed
removed from this
separately.
list? Not the main list. Huh?
Are you saying they removed the in crowd of Como?
Yes.
Is that true, Tina?
You have to discuss it. I did not remove the application
Okay.
because it needs to be discussed. As a committee, you have to discuss it.
So that license used to belong, I'm sorry, Dave, I'll get you one second. It used to belong to, we'll say, just say Privado. Did they turn it in, or is the sale contingent upon transfer?
It's still Tony William.
Mhm.
His LLC is the In Crowd of Geneva. That's his license he held last year. He is applying for renewal under the In Crowd of Como or whatever his LLC name is. I don't recall the exact name.
Okay.
However, he did not supply us with this sales tax reports that are required per ordinance.
Okay. Dave, I saw you.
Tim Wilson. So we reviewed this with Village Attorney Schrader, and his suggestion was to pull that specific license from the consideration for approval of all the other licenses, with the notation that that license application would be receiving, that the village board had an intent not to renew that license for lack of compliance with the village code, which then will trigger notification to the applicant, and they'll have the ability to appeal that, that intent not to renew back to the village board, and that will take a little bit of time. But to separate out that application specifically because they are required by code now, to be, in business a minimum of 6 months out of 12. So it'll be 6 months in and no business. So the intent to not renew is based on that. If they're able to provide, either information contrary to that, or maybe they have a business that, is ready to be open, then the board can consider those facts at the time that they appeal the decision.
So just so I can clarify for everybody, this new one, In Crowd of Como, is that a new LLC?
No, that was,
That's the same one
they
that
were
he
open
was,
last year.
the same one that he was operating under last year.
Yes.
So really what we need to do is, they're in violation of, the ordinance that Susan worked on, and we should pull that right now. We'll consider the rest, and we're gonna notify him, and then we'll take it up on, we'll say, an appeal or whatever.
And I would suggest that there's two separate motions. One is to approve the licenses that you are going to be approving this evening, and specifically a motion recommending that the village board not renew the license for the In Crowd of Como.
Okay, everybody understand that?
Yeah.
Okay,
Can you
I just
explain,
want to make sure everyone's clear. Yes, Mayor?
can you explain why that doesn't apply to the topography beverage company? That's in-
They haven't been in business.
The ordinance,
Everyone knows.
right, the ordinance required that you had been in
I
business.
understand, I'm explaining.
Yeah, no,
Rhetorical.
that's a good question. The ordinance required that the business had been in business prior to January. And since topography has not been in business or used their license yet, it doesn't apply. Thank you.
So I guess the first thing, why don't, I'll go ahead, I'll make a motion that we. I'm sorry, what was that?
You have to go check.
That's what, yeah. I'll make a motion that we deny the renewal for number 3, the In Crowd of Como Incorporated, doing business as Bay Party Center due to not complying with our current ordinance.
Yeah.
All right, I'll look for a second.
Second, Brandon.
Got a second. Any further discussion? If not, I'll make the call. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. So that one's removed. Any other further questions on the classifications or anything about I mean, I went through them and it looks like everything's in order. I know Tina, you probably scrutinized it even better than me, to be honest, but everything seems to be in order for me.
So I did talk to Tina about this. Several of the applications do not have the training proof for the responsible server in their application, but Tina does have that. So at the next renewal, she's going to go ahead and incorporate that into the memo so that anybody who's missing information, it'll be addressed there.
And I actually have a request, rather than putting everything in and redacting so much, this takes so much of my time. Can I put the information in a memo and just say, everything's complete? I mean, you have a memo from me, you have a memo from Chief Tim, is that acceptable, or do you prefer to see everything?
I'll speak for myself. I'm fine with the memo, because if I ever want to see something, I can always walk in and say, Tina, can I look at this? And you've got it. You're not making all these packets and downloading it and that. So personally, I'm fine with that. Anybody else?
No,
Are we okay with doing it that way in the future?
It's a lot of, I feel like, confidential information
Look at all the paperwork. I mean,
that I.
so I'm good with that. So. All right. If not, I'd look for a motion. I think we should take these in separate sections. You want me to make motions? Or
Yeah.
You want me to make it? Rob's smiling over there.
I want you to do it.
All right, I'm gonna try to hurry this up then. All right, I make a motion that we approve the combination Class B fermented malt beverage and Class B intoxicating liquor license for number 1, Big Bay LLC, doing business as Cafe Calamari / Harpoon Willie's. For number 2, Unhinged and Reckless LLC, doing business as the Cantina. Number 4, Topography Beverage Company LLC, doing business as Topography Beverage Company LLC. And number 5, Green Grocer Incorporated, doing business as Green Grocer. Can I make that motion?
I'll second that.
We got a first and a second. Any further discussion? If not, I'll make the call. All in favor, say aye. Aye, opposed? That motion carries. Next, I will make a motion to approve the combination Class B fermented malt liquor or malt beverage and Class B intoxicating liquor license, reserve license for gate number 1 Gage Marine Corporation, doing business as Pier 290. And number 2, Bay Cooks LLC, doing business as Bay Cooks. And I look for a second.
I'll second it.
You got a first and second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. Next, we have the combination Class Parent A fermented malt beverage and Parent Class A intoxicating liquor license renewals. First one is for Ganesh Food Incorporated, doing business as Bayside Mart. Number 2, we have GLM Liquor and Grocery Incorporated, doing business as Bell's Store. 3, Williams Bay Mobile Mart Incorporated, doing business as Williams Bay Mobile. And I'm looking for a second.
Second.
You got a first and second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye, opposed? That motion carries. Next, we have the combination Class Parent B fermented malt beverage and Parent Class C liquor, wine only, renewal applications. First one is for Clearwater Salon and Day Spa LLC, doing business as Clearwater Salon Med Spa. Number 2, Women's Leadership Center at Williams Bay, doing business as Women's Leadership Center at Williams Bay. And I look for a second.
Second.
You got first and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye, opposed? That motion carries. Next, we have the combination Class Parent B fermented malt beverage and above quota Parent Class B intoxicating liquor license. And that is for Yerkes Future Foundation, doing business as Yerkes Observatory. I'll briefly explain for the audience. A while ago, the state had approved what's referred to as an above quota liquor license. And currently liquor licenses are based on population. So this one is not based on population, but it's based on other circumstances without me going through it all. And what they had to do is Yerkes had to make application to the state to prove to the state that they meet all the criteria for this license. And then they got a certificate from the state saying that they meet the requirements. So at that point, it was up to the village to decide whether or not to issue a license. We had discussions on it, and the village board granted that. So here we are today, and I think I made that motion to approve it, so I'd be looking for a second.
Second.
First and second, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye, opposed? That motion carries. Last, we've got the cigarette, tobacco, and electronic vaping device license renewal applications. First one is for Ganesh Food Incorporated, doing business as Bayside Mart. Second is GLM Liquor and Grocery Incorporated, doing business as Bell's Store. And third is Williams Bay Mobile Mart Incorporated, doing business as Williams Bay Mobile Mart. And I look for a second.
Second, Branson.
You got a first and a second. Any further discussion? If not, I'll make a call. All in favor, say aye. Aye, opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. Next, we have the Fontana Emergency Medical EMS monthly numbers. Chief Mantley.
Good evening.
Is here. If anybody's got questions for him, Chief, I'll turn it over to you. If you'd like to say anything.
Yeah, so for April, it was a very heavy training and education month for us. You can see in the report. I just really want to commend all the men and women of Fontana for their efforts in benefiting themselves, bettering themselves through education. We had 9 additional personnel that obtained new certifications, and a number of our people went out to conferences and outside training. So it was a very heavy month for training for Fontana. For the staffing report, I just want to clarify, there's some questions last month as far as our daily staffing. So in 2026, it did increase to 5 personnel for a 24-hour position. That was part of bringing on Walworth Township to add that position. It is a part-time position, so some days you'll see that we're at 4, some days you'll see we're at 5. That's based on the availability of part-time employees. But the goal is at least to maintain that 3 to 4 is the goal to maintain on a 24-hour basis. And we also have a daytime position that is an additional one. There's a couple of days where we had more than 5. Those are days that we were onboarding new personnel. So at that point, we had people that couldn't function as a certified EMT or firefighter because they hadn't gone through the process. So we did have some days that we were heavy on personnel because we were training new personnel. I do want to provide an opportunity for Captain Booth to provide an update on the housing. So that's coming up. So I'll turn that over to Captain Booth.
Good evening. So at this point, we've got 2 final steps to complete and begin occupancy of the new station house. We have some electrical work that needs to be done. And then also this week, I've not had a commitment from Velocity, which handles all of our internet connectivity. And that was told that it would be completed this week. So those are the final 2 steps, some final electrical work, and then internet connectivity, and then we're going to be ready to go. So my goal was for Memorial Day, but we're close. So if everything goes well, I would hope by the beginning of next week. Fontana personnel have been helping stocking the house, so that's pretty much everything's complete for occupancy on that side as well. Also, a thank you to Trustee for coordinating the beautiful landscaping that went in. So that was step 3 that's gone, so now we're down to the 2. Any questions on?
Yes. So, thank you, because I don't know if they 100% volunteered, but the Fontana EMS people are going to water the trees. Well, they haven't moved in yet, but they're watering the trees.
Yes, they are.
Okay.
One shift was happy to take command of that, if you will. So every 3rd day there will be water. So they're watching it grow.
Any further question? I guess, Rich, did that other staircase get built? I haven't built the other side of it.
Yes.
All right.
Yep.
And I wanted to thank you, 2 of your guys actually helped us plant the trees too, so that was nice. And I think Lieutenant Olson was one, so we had some officers there helping, so thank you for that.
Well, any other questions on the monthly reports? Sorry.
I thought it was interesting, and the age is always, and we don't have to go to it. I think there were only 2 people under 60 years old of all the calls.
Well, one of them was the bad scooter. Oh, that's just the April. We're not
For the April reports, Definitely fluctuates from month to month for the calls.
Yeah, that's all.
Thank you, both
That's
chiefs.
why we have it.
All right, next item we have up on the agenda is the Williams Bay Police Chief's monthly report and the Williams Bay monthly numbers. Chief Tim?
Thank you. You guys have the numbers in front of you. If you have any questions on that, please let me know. Just some things to note. The Memorial Day parade was a huge success once again. So were the festivities down at the park afterwards. I thought that was very successful, great turnout, beautiful weather for it. We do have, on June 13th, we have a bike helmet decoration and e-scooter helmet decoration event going on with the rec department. That will be down at the lakefront near the rec department. We're teaming up with them. We may try to move it, if we need to, we'll move it inside or the pavilion, depending on the weather. I know EMS is also involved with that, so we're going to get together and get something fun. So just a little event to promote helmet and helmet safety. I am currently working on an ordinance with the scooter helmets and bike helmets. I know I've talked with multiple trustees to get this going. We're taking a little bit from different areas, and we are trying to see what will fit best with the Village of Williams Bay and in our ordinances. We have Officer Skirto is off of field training Officer Carlton is on field training now. So if you see her riding with Officer Rudy right now, please make sure to stop by and say hi. They're getting out, getting to know everybody, getting the geographic area taken care of, and hopefully she'll be done about mid-July to late July. Office remodel update, really briefly. We're still working with Glenn Fern to try to see when they can get in. My understanding was they were going to be in on Friday. They were not, so I reached out to them again today. So hopefully we'll see some movement on that soon. And last but not least, Squad 294 is at Cunis. It's getting a complete new engine. So it's under warranty, but we are down another squad, so which is unfortunate, but especially rolling into the summer months, they do say it should be done by July, so we're hoping to have that up and running. We don't have a bike yet. We're working on that still too, unfortunately.
Any questions?
I have a question.
Yep.
I know what this is on there, I think.
Okay.
But I want to know what we're doing about it. Soliciting five events on that.
Yep.
It's on page 3.
Yep.
Okay, this has to do, because you get complaints, but we get complaints too.
Yep.
Okay, I have gotten several complaints about the people that go around for boat control and that stuff.
Sure.
This ties into that, I'm sure. Right?
Yeah, it does. It does. Some of them
So
are.
the question is, are you doing anything about it, or you just take the complaint, or is it allowed? One resident came up and said, do they have to have identification?
Sure, which is all in our ordinance. They don't need to have identification, but they do need to identify themselves as soon as making contact. They also have to be registered with the village clerk, and then they have to go through a pretty stringent background from us, from the police department, before they have approval to go door to door.
You mean an organization or the individuals?
The individuals. So they have to give a very lengthy background to the village clerk, and then it gets passed over to the police department when I do the actual background. We do need to be careful because there are certain protected rights that we cannot stop people from going door to door about. But if it's regarding, I'm just going to use weed control or pest control, those are things that we take calls on, and the officers are notified. I think a month ago, we sent out an email that we knew we'd be seeing an uptick, right? So we did send out an email saying, hey, there are, if the homeowner tells them that they're not allowed on the property, they need to leave right away. There are ordinance violations that we can cite so that we are handling that accordingly. Did that answer your question?
That's a good answer. But I told the guy to leave 3 times every room.
Yeah, that's a phone call to us then. That's a phone call to us.
Right. The next time I'll call you then.
Yeah, please.
Any other questions for the chief? Thank you, chief.
Thank you.
All right, next we have on the agenda, this one will be fun, is discussion and possible action on proposals received for Williams Bay Fire Protection Services. We received one proposal from Town of Delavan and one proposal from Village of Fontana. We had an opportunity, the Protective Services Committee, we actually sat down and we conducted interviews with both the departments. They submitted proposals to us. They submitted the documentation about their department, equipment, all that stuff. So I guess we need to make a recommendation on which one we feel we should go with. I'm guessing this has been on for a while. We all had an opportunity to read through everything. And if not, I just try to start the discussion on where we feel we should go with this.
So you want the motion first, what we should go with, or should we discuss it first? This is kind of a big.
It's gonna be a big discussion.
Huh?
It's gonna be a big discussion, I know.
Yeah. No, not that big.
I think we can talk about it, Dave, any objections? I think we can talk about it, I mean, because our decision may change, I hate to be putting oceans out there and withdrawing them and stuff.
So here's my list. I can go through it real quick.
Go for it.
You were on vacation, so might help you a little bit too. And so I've actually gone through this before in a way. So, my first remark was we need to fix this and not have a Band-Aid solution, but I think we have Fontana and Delvin, both of them are more than capable. Several years ago, we were with the police department, we were in deep trouble. We had 23 part-time turnovers in just 3 years. We fixed that. He fixed that actually. He was the youngest police chief, I said that before, in the state of Wisconsin. And so we're happy with the police department. We got in trouble with EMS, with service that was barely existent. We fixed that. And now the fire department is on, and so we put out a request for proposals. Fontana and Williams Bay responded. The Williams Bay, Fontana and Delvin, I'm sorry, Williams Bay did not. And so I think the objective, the goal is to maintain a Williams Bay fire station as a satellite station, similar as EMS with leased equipment, etc. So there are a couple differences between Fontana and Delvin, and I'll go through them real quick. Fontana has 2 fire engines, and there will be on the future Dark Point Road in 2027 when it gets built, which is just right down the street. Delvin has 1 engine on Town Hall Road, and there's 1 engine on County O, which is pretty far away. They work a little bit different, Delvin. They do have 2 water tankers, and also other fire engines obviously carry also water with them, like a ladder truck. As far as the Fontana has 13 full-time people, 10 firefighters, paramedics, and 3 fire EMTs, and they got 6 part-time and 16 people paid on call. Delvin operates a little bit different. They got 24 paid on call, 2 full-time AMET firefighters, and 4 full-time paramedics. Came up the union came up. That doesn't make too much difference probably, but Fontana is in the union. Delvin trying to stay away from it. They are not in the union. The ISO rating came up, which is important for the insurance. The ISO rating for Fontana is class 3, which is one of the highest you can get in the country, actually. ISO rating for Delvin is 6. That is mainly was attributed to Delvin having no fire hydrants. I took that, and they agreed to that, but however, I go on through Delvin, and I do see some fire hydrants, so there are some hydrants there. Both of them have an independent commission for fire and police. But I think the main thing here is, one of the other thing is, the difference is, Fontana is at the, the Truckapalooza and events like that. The Delvin, we call, they come out, they go back. And so there's no additional services, we get nothing in addition to that from Delvin. So Fontana will education, Truckapalooza and stuff like that. Then we have to look at the financial aspects, and we will come up with the repeats of the finance committee later on. But the Fontana will have the Williams Bay Satellite Station with Fontana employees and leased Williams Bay equipment similar to the EMS thing. Delavan will come out for calls, but we actually, Williams Bay will have to maintain the satellite station here, meaning we can't really get rid of our fire department altogether. And so that being said, I would go with Fontana necessarily, option 3, and then option 3, A or B, not C. I can go either way, depends how finance thinks about it. There's a $30,000 difference, but I think B is a little better. It gives you one extra person coverage. And as long as I don't know, we have to go for a referendum or not. But if we do, then that $30,000 absolutely makes no difference. And then go with that. So that's my input.
Thank you, Rob. Susan, would you like to add anything? or-
Yeah, no, thanks for the very comprehensive report. I think what we heard during the interviews and in discussions with our fire chief, EMS chief, and police chief was that both of the fire departments are outstanding partners for Williams Bay, which makes this a very difficult decision to choose one over the other to be an even stronger partner for us. We did go through an evaluation matrix where each of the committee members and staff, some staff and police chief, fire chief, EMS chief scored the various, the 2 respondents. We looked at maintains Williams Bay Station presence, local presence and geographic fit, existing relationship and transition ease, staffing depth and sustainability, governance and integration model, equipment, water response capability, cost predictability and value, and future growth and long-term strategy. And as a result of that consolidated evaluation, Fontana came out at a higher weight than Delavan. So Fontana was at 9 and Delavan was at 6.7. We did do a little bit more investigation in terms of what does it mean to work with the fire departments if you are on the Williams Bay Fire Department or in protective services. And so we did get some really good information. I think the other important piece is that it's not, regardless of who we choose, we don't lose the other one. So we will still have the ability to work with both departments very strongly. So just wanted to put that out there that, you know, we can't lose by making a decision, but we do need to make a decision. I think we have to choose the one that is both the most cost effective, but also provides what we believe is the greatest value.
Thank you. I'll give my opinion, but I would like to get opinions from everybody then afterwards, since this is a big decision, including the chiefs and including Dave. So I went through all of this also, and I will say, I think that no matter who we go with, we're not going to lose. I think that overall, we do need the help. The fire department came to us, and just like with the EMS, I'll do what I can to help you. In my opinion, I know there's been a lot, and I want this on the record. In my opinion, I know there's been talk about dissolving our fire department. It's not my intention to dissolve the fire department, and I don't think that should happen. I want that on the record, that that's where I stand on it. Everybody who I've talked to said we need volunteers, we need paid on call, we need to have that extra personnel if something big happens. So I want that to be on the record, that that's where I stand with that. One of, I guess my biggest concern is that Fontana has more full-timers, which in my opinion is better. It's less risky, let's say. Right now, Town of Delavan, you've got a great working relationship with Delavan, we know that. We've been working with them for many years. They've got a big staff right now, but most of them are paid on call or volunteers. What happens if something changes? You know, I don't think a full-time fireman is going to really walk away from the job versus a volunteer, if they get a job full-time somewhere else, they could lose their staff. I'm not gonna say it'll happen, but it's a possibility. And I would hate for us to be in that position where if we contract with them, then they can't provide the service. So I think, in my opinion, going with a department that's more full-time is less risky for us. And then I also looked at what type of relationship we have right now. We've got a working relationship with Fontana. You know, there's been studies done that talk about, we can't really call it districts, but in essence, what we're trying to do is we're trying to create paper districts. And we have that going on with Fontana right now, and it seems to be working well. I know Town of Delavan has offered EMS service also, but in my opinion, I don't think we should pull service of what we've got going with Fontana to go to Town of Delavan. I have no reason to do that. So if I were to look at the two comparables, I would only look at what the Town of Delavan offered is the cost option number 3. Because I don't think we need the EMS service, and I don't think we should be changing that. Again, I think we've got a good working relationship going. I hope that my opinion is my recommendation would be to go with Fontana right now, unless somebody tells me something different. But I want to keep that relationship with Town of Delavan because it is a good relationship, and I think we all got to work together, especially in situations like this. So.
I forgot to mention something, but I think it's actually important. The chief from Delavan, and you guys do the same thing, made a statement, he will not release a fire truck unless there's an ambulance that goes with it. It's not just that the ambulance is there for ambulance services, but it's also to protect the firemen in case that's needed. So we don't have EMS for Delavan, they would depend on Fontana Fire, the Fontana EMS, to leave at the same time, so they're at the location where the incident is. And that could be tricky, a tricky situation. Let's say the ambulance in Northern Bay is on call, and there's a fire call coming in. That would be, then the EMS would have to come, ambulance would have to come from Fontana, and that gets to be complicated.
Okay. Any other?
They do the same thing, so, they release the fire truck and, EMS, so this way you have 4 people, and they're all firemen EMS, so they can either become a fireman, if you need all of them, and then they leave the ambulance. I learned a lot in those interviews. They become then a fireman, or leave it, and then they call in for a second ambulance if that's needed, so it's flexibility there too.
Yeah. Any other trustees like to weigh in?
Excuse me, I think the Fontana proposal carries the most weight and the most impact. One, because I think it's the, to your point, trustee Block, because of the full-time staffing, the more likely to be reliable and steady on an ongoing basis. And we've got an existing relationship there. And then secondly, from a finance perspective, the Fontana proposals are much more attractive. But to your point about protecting the Williams Bay Fire Department, the Fontana proposals are only attractive financially if in fact we quit funding the Williams Bay Fire Department.
Yes.
So that organization can do whatever it wants to do, but the financial analysis says that we'd be paying Fontana for fire services, and my analysis so far now says we quit funding the Williams Bay Fire Department.
And so the way it works is both of them have a commission that controls who gets hired. And so Fontana would then, if you are an officer, you would apply to the commission, and then they would make that a lateral move if you get hired.
That's if you wanted to eliminate our department. That's it, that would have, if you wanted to eliminate our department, you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, the fact is, we don't have a department, or we have an organization that
Not utilized Williams Bay.
it's a budget question of what we spend money on.
I want to ask a question then, I guess, to Chief Bentley, and I don't want to put you on the spot or anything, but are having additional paid on-call officers a good idea? If we didn't have Williams Bay to help, how would that affect Fontana?
So I think it's important to note that in all three of the options provided was to work with the current Williams Bay personnel. Under the first option, it was to work side by side as two separate entities. Under option 2 and 3 is to bring the two together as one single entity. So it's not, I really think it's, the best benefit is going to be to bring the organizations together. And some of the things we put in the proposal was to provide those lateral transfers. Officers are something that we do struggle to fill those roles of having officers responding to the scene. In a larger department, they have what's called a battalion chief that works a full-time shift and fills that role in. We don't have that role. It's filled, primarily by Assistant Chief Ackman right now, and occasionally by Deputy Chief Captain myself, and we have another captain that responds to help coordinate when there's a larger call. There's a fire alarm, there's an accident with entrapment, or there's a structure fire. But we absolutely would need to expand our officers that we have responding from home, because those are officers that come in, they're on call, they're not funded 24 hours a day like they are the full-time staff. Now the full-time staff can handle the vast majority of the calls in Williams Bay and Fontana and Waller Township, because the vast majority of them, you only need one fire engine to respond, maybe a fire engine or an ambulance for a fire alarm, and then have a officer show up as well. But I do think that it is critical to try to bring as many as possible together to maintain those additional officers. There's also the benefit of the officers in Williams Bay. They know the buildings, they know the towns, they know the suppression systems, they know the water system. There's a lot of those things that are a learning curve that we would really be short-sighted not to bring in some of that leadership on and work together with them.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions for the Chief? Thank you, Chief. Any other questions or comments from?
My other comment, Trustee Block, would be perhaps we need to look at a transition strategy that right now the two fire departments are working together. Option 2 from the Fontana proposal says they cover fire services from the Fontana stations. I'm not sure from a timing perspective how soon we could move beyond that, but I think as your committee considers this and as the board considers, we probably need to look at a transition plan and funding that goes with that transition plan.
Okay. Anybody else?
You were asking for everyone's opinion. I never gave mine, so I'll just throw it out there. I'm not going to repeat all the good points. There were really good points made on behalf of both departments. For me, though, I would vote for Fontana. I would probably go with 3B out of the options presented. And the one reason I'll give, I agree with just about every reason that's said, but the big one for me that is separating these two is it's the paid on call and volunteer model that's been breaking. That's what broke our EMS, that's what broke our fire department, and that's what's breaking all across the state and the country, in these smaller departments. I'm personally quite bearish on the market. And when things get really bad, then people can't volunteer. They can't do paid on call. They have to do a full-time job and focus on one thing to get the big paycheck. And I'm worried that they're going to have trouble if things keep getting bad with the war, the SpaceX IPO creators, everything like they're saying it might. So that's my thing.
Thank you. Dave?
I don't have anything to add. I think this is purely a policy decision on the part of the board. We appreciate as staff being included in the process and providing whatever guidance we could throughout it. But I don't have anything to add, and I don't know if anybody else would.
Okay. Well, go ahead, Steve.
So I view the following things as important in whatever decision we make. Relationship with the department that we choose, staffing geared more towards full-time employees when paid on call, response time, how we would achieve that. And I think utilization of the Williams Bay Fire Station is important for that. Oversight of personnel, professional management, cohesiveness between EMS and fire. It has to be a financially responsible decision. And in the end, we need to make sure that we have well-trained people that operate under the same procedures. So if I was on the committee, I would lean towards Fontana and probably in the option 3B.
I want to give our fire department an opportunity. Chief Smith, would you like to add anything or say anything, or?
We're the ones that asked for the help, so.
Okay.
Referring to everything, the biggest issue, depending on how you move forward, it sounds like you're gonna defund us at the end of the year is the building, 90% of that building is ours. So, that's something that to get worked out. As Trustee Ullman said, and it was on YouTube, that they're gonna just get rid of us and take our building. Wasn't much appreciated with that comment, just for the record.
Thank you. Chief Booth, do you have anything to add?
I think a little clarification from Trustee Wright on disbanding the fire department. I know that in the Fontana proposal, there was quite a bit of emphasis on working with the paid on call and the importance of maintaining paid on call for those, as Chief said, the fire alarms and things like that, but an active working structure fire, I don't think Chief would disagree that he's going to need a few more people than in Fontana currently relies on their paid on call. And I would like to question Trustee Wright on how that is going to benefit this community by disbanding the fire department when you have a core group of people that are still very well trained, that are paid on call personnel in Williams Bay. And I don't manage the budget on the fire side, but Trustee Wright in finance would probably know this right off the top of his head, but just the salary portion, since you're going to disband and move at least like you do with the EMS to Fontana, all that's really going to be left is the cost of the paid on call, and they only get paid when they get a call. And I think that is probably in the $20,000 to $30,000 range for the year for our reimbursement for paid on call dollars. I don't know exactly, but say it's even 40,000, which I know it's not, I don't believe. So for $40,000, you're getting 15 or more trained firefighters that will respond to this community and help the residents of the community on an active structure fire. And now to say you're going to just disband those personnel does not make any sense to me. And you can check the cost. I mean, how much is that? A couple $1,000s a month to have 15 or so trained firefighters available to help the community. So that part makes no sense to me whatsoever, and I'd probably like to get more of an explanation. I don't know if Chief Manthey has mentioned, the use of paid on call, so I'd like to get much more clarification on what the intention is with these firefighters that are trained and have gone to school and are still able to respond.
I thought that if there was a combining of the two departments, that whoever is awarded this would absorb those individuals from Williams Bay.
Well, that's what we're thinking, but Trustee Owens and Trustee Wright said they're going to disband, so.
What I said in particular was that my financial projections and the ones we've discussed so far, and we'll discuss again in committee, assume that if we go with the Fontana proposal, other than their proposal number one, that the Village of Williams Bay no longer funds the fire service directly. That in fact, we pay well, 3B would pay just short of $200,000 a year to the Village of Fontana to provide that service. If they were to choose, and probably hopefully wisely choose to use existing Williams Bay firefighters as paid on call staff, that'd be great. But it would come out of their money.
Actually, the way we do at least the ambulance on EMS, would work the same way, right? Would work the same way. The fire truck gets leased at Fontana also. They pay the insurance, they pay the, it's right in there, all in the document. They pay the insurance and they pay the maintenance and we lease it to them. And so that technically, we don't have any, we look at them, if there's anything that we can store, they have storage for additional equipment and the rest of it we can sell. So basically, we don't have a fire department. If we lease all the equipment that they need to Fontana, how do we still have a fire department then? That's my point. Am I right? Right? It would work that way in 3B, we lease the equipment to you then, right?
Yeah, for 3B and for options 2 and 3 was to do the same as the ambulance. If we were gonna be combining the departments into one, like we did for EMS, in a very similar manner, it would be done through that. And same thing for the personnel, you know, like we've said, the lateral transfer and to bring everybody aboard would be the goal through options 2 and 3.
Right, so then we have no equipment, we have firefighters, but no equipment because it's leased to Fontana.
Fontana firefighters.
And so the Williams Bay firefighters then will still can be stationed in Williams Bay, but they are actually employees of Fontana. Right?
Correct,
yeah. Correct. So that's what I'm saying.
What standards do they have to meet to be hired by Fontana?
So for us, the process, like we put in the proposal, it would, and typically we have an open enrollment for our paid on call. We are getting to the point now where we are actually closing that off because we are at capacity for our personnel right now. We bring in our personnel for our paid on call. We're finding is a lot of the people just want to work 1 shift a month or 2 shifts a month. But we're not seeing that mass paid on call personnel to show up for those structured fires. So that's kind of how we're filling the gaps right now with our paid on call staff, is that, you know, we're at 41 personnel right now, but that doesn't mean we have 40 people showing up for a fire. It means that, you know, 10 people are signing up to work 10 shifts in a month to spread it out over people. With Williams Bay, we'd be bringing in any and all Williams Bay personnel open to go through the process. Now, the process to be hired would be to go through start out with the fire department, and then we would go through the Police and Fire Commission for final approval. So once the Police and Fire Commission makes all the decisions for hiring, discipline, and promotions, they would make the final authority to hire, and then there's a medical physical is the last step. So this is not a physical agility. This isn't, you have to drag a dummy, you have to throw ladders. This is similar to physical you do with your doctor on an annual basis. They do an EKG, they do blood work, just a pre-employment physical through occupational health. So nothing physical agility, just a medical physical that has to be done. And that protects, you know, municipalities and the firefighters. Obviously, you don't want to have somebody out there taking risks if they have a medical condition that could put them at harm. And obviously, the village does not want to, you know, assume responsibility or liability for those as well. So it's a win-win on both to make sure that everybody working is physically fit. And that's for any role in the fires, on the fire scene, whether that be driving the fire engine, pumping the fire engine, anything like that. They should be protected by the workers' compensation, you know, for the municipalities. And to do that, it is required a medical physical for that. There's a lot of organizations that show up to assist on fires in supportive manners, whether that be assisting with hydration and rehab or checking vital signs, but anybody actually working on the fire scene would need to go through that physical as the final step.
So it's a medical exam, and there would be an interview also?
So we would do is, it would go through we would onboard everybody. They would go through a criminal background check and the regular background check. Then would go to Police and Fire Commission. They don't interview at the Police and Fire Commission. They just approve or deny our recommendations that go through. We provide them the information and they make the final decision.
So they get a criminal background, a medical exam, and then you would say, yes, we want this person hired, and assumably they would stamp it.
Correct.
But you're up to staff right now.
We are, but that's, you know, there would be additional, obviously there's additional calls in Williams Bay. We're covering it with Williams Bay right now. You know, they're still responding on almost every single call with us. Sometimes we get there first, sometimes they get there first. We're still working with them. Williams Bay is still providing personnel on those calls. So we would be looking to fill that void. And like I said before, especially in the officer area. And that's why we included, you know, at least one officer to be added to the, you know, to the budget. That was included in the budget we included. It was one officer. Our officers receive a stipend for being on call. So that was included. And then additional paid on call hours as well.
Okay. Thank you, Chief.
Yep.
Anybody have any questions or comments? Chief, anything you want to go in last minute? All right, well, I guess, I think maybe we should, might be easier to make a motion on who we want to go with, and I think we're gonna have to pick which option to go with. Would we agree?
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess I'd look for a motion first on which department we want to go with.
So I'll make the motion to select the Village of Fontana and go with option 3B.
We're just dealing with village.
Oh, just the village, okay.
So Village of Fontana. That was Village of Fontana, right? Okay, I'll second that. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, so that would be recommended to the board, Village of Fontana. Now we need to look at options.
Now we make a recommendation to finance for the option.
Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, so I'll recommend to, I make a motion to recommend to the finance committee that we select option 3B.
Okay.
We'll put a date on that. Is it January 1st?
Oh, yeah, it's effective January 1st, because it'll be 2027.
So we got a motion on the floor to go with option 3B.
I think you got a second.
You got a first. Do we have a second?
I'll second, Brandon.
We got a first and a second. Any further discussion?
So why 3B versus 3A when 3A is more budget neutral?
I'm sorry. what was that?
Why 3B versus 3A when 3A is more budget neutral?
It gets you one extra person here. There's not, and so for, I've got 10 hours a day or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So not 24 hours of service, 10 hours a day.
Any other further discussion?
I thought to answer your question, trustee Frank, if you don't mind. I think it's marginally more to get a lot more benefit. It's like a very small upcharge to get that third position.
Yeah,
I
so
think that's
somebody
kind
can-
of what Rob and I, trustee Rubens and I were.
Yeah, somebody can drive the fire truck and the two EMS people can become firemen. You got 3 firemen already, and by then, sometimes if it's a big to-do thing, they'll come out, they'll have more equipment and more people.
But keep in mind, if Fontana has a substantial cadre of paid-on-call staff, do we need another full-time person?
Well, you have, otherwise you only have 2 people you use for the EMS in Williams Bay.
Okay.
And nobody for fire, technically. Right, am I right? Okay, we get clarification.
So I'll expand on it a little bit. So as far as the staffing goes, to provide fire service from Williams Bay, it's very, very difficult to provide fire service with 2 people on a fire engine. When you show up to a fire, you have one person that's dedicated to pump the apparatus, and you need at least 2 people to go in and advance the hose line or to do a search. So with 2 people responding from the station, it's very, very difficult to actually engage in firefighting activities. They can handle most of the fire alarms and a lot of the single engine or engine and ambulance. If we have an ambulance coming from another jurisdiction, that'll handle that. But when you're talking about making immediate life-saving interventions on the fire side, 3 is what I would consider to be the minimum on a fire engine to going out. So that's why we encourage that, yes, we can do it with 2. But a lot of times you're going to be waiting for the 3rd person to be coming from Fontana or paid on call to be coming from home to get the fire engine and come with us. So that's why that 3rd person is so key on the fire side. Whereas on the EMS side, we can function with 2 an EMT and a paramedic. During the daytime hours, that's typically when first of all, when our call volume is highest. When the population is up and about, we see more calls during the daytime. It's also when our paid on call are at their full-time jobs typically. So at night, we get a little more paid on call personnel coming out because they're in their nights. During the daytime, when our call volume is highest and our paid on call people are at work, that's really when the demand is the highest for that position. That's why we kind of included that as the bridge. Ultimately, yes, we have 3 people 24 hours a day. It's also important to note that our staffing models right now, we have 4 full-time personnel. Any additional positions right now, we're filling with part-time personnel, and that's working for now. We are hopeful that it's going to continue to work. We had enough applicants to fill those positions. We are not planning on extending any additional full-time personnel for firefighters or EMS personnel at this time. We're filling all those positions with part-time personnel.
I do have one more question. I'm not sure if this is the right place to ask you or not, but is there a way for us to build into the agreement where all Williams Bay fire personnel are automatically accepted into Fontana, pending that medical examination, so that we have a little bit more security and certainty for our fire personnel?
I see Dave over here.
So that the chief isn't put in a bad spot on this one. The distinction of the Police and Fire Commission and a board, the board is responsible for the financial side of the operations for the village, but the hiring and firing is with the Police and Fire Commission. So you can have an agreement amongst your boards, but I don't believe that the Police and Fire Commission would be able to enter into or be affected by that agreement. They're purposely set up to be independent from the elected boards.
That's correct, they're completely separate.
There's no guarantee.
We did put in the proposal that the lateral transfers would be approved by us. So anybody coming over that's a current member would be sent to the board, but the final decision would be made by the Police and Fire Commission.
Because the definition of us is the fire department?
Correct.
So yeah,
The Fontana Fire Department brings the candidates to the Police and Fire Commission, and the Police and Fire Commission makes the final decision on hiring.
Any further discussion? I'll just say that I'll be voting no on this, not because of Fontana, but because I will not approve defunding our fire department. So with that, I'll make the call. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Aye. Two opposed. Okay, so that fails. Anybody want to put another motion in front? That was B that we talked about.
I just want to say, Trustee Watt, that I'm disappointed that this just died right now. And I'm gonna find another trustee to bring this on the agenda again in 2 weeks. Because I think I've got the 4 votes here to get this over the goal line. And I'm not gonna let it just die in committee.
Well, first off, we never said it's gonna die, we just voted on one thing, but if you wanna circumvent the committee, you go ahead.
Well, I'm just looking to know my intentions for the committee. If we get out of here tonight, nothing.
That's okay, you have the option of doing that. But right now, we're still having a discussion about it, and it's still in committee. All right. Anybody else wish to make a recommendation or a motion?
No, not at this point.
Well, I'll make a motion, we'll see where it goes. I'll make a motion to recommend option number 2 with the Fontana Fire Department. So we got a first, do we have a second?
I gotta read that from
service from Fontana.
Fontana provides Williams-Big Fire Service from Fontana Fire Station. EMS operations with Operation Williams-Big Fire Apparatus which is found from Fontana.
So we're not gonna make any recommendation? I guess we're done with it tonight.
Took a whole month off, George. I mean, we don't think that.
Pardon?
Sorry.
Wait,
I'm
no,
sorry.
if you
I-
want
this is not the
to
proper
attack
way.
me, go right ahead.
You're right, it's not the proper place. I'm gonna express my disappointment that you missed the last 2 meetings. It's fine, everyone gets vacations, but
That's
it's
right.
just- it's getting really slowed down. And then to not get anything out of all of this is very disappointing.
If you want to attack me about.
I'm not attacking.
If you want to attack me about the fire department, then we've been working on maybe a couple of months. I wish you would have that same, when it comes to the streets and some other issues that have been going on that have been dragged over a year. Don't attack me about it. We're working on it. We're working with our fire department. We're working with Fontana, try to get it done. If you don't always get everything the way somebody wants, to threaten me that you're gonna take it from the 4 people, you get the 4 votes, that's fine, jam it through. But it's not gonna, these men and women back there have serviced the community for many years, and we're worried about a few $1,000s, when we know a paid on call can definitely help when it comes to big issues. But we're so quick to cut them off because they asked for help. In my opinion, that's wrong. But if you want to circumvent the committee, go ahead. And I'm disappointed that you had to bring this up in a meeting like this.
I agree. It was very improper for me to say that. So
It's very
I'm
inappropriate.
gonna apologize. I agree.
All right, I'll look for a motion to adjourn. I'll make that motion. We have a second, we have a first and second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. We are adjourned.
All right, thank you, trustee Block. The next committee, the final committee this evening is going to be our Finance and Personnel Committee, and trustee Wright is going to be doing that.
Thank you, President Perry. Call to order the Finance and Personnel Committee for the business this evening. Trustees Wright, Owens, and Bartholomew are present, so the quorum, the committee is here in full. Our first item on our agenda is discussion of possible actions on proposal for fire protection services. And if there's no proposal coming forward, I think we can probably move past that item at the moment. Next actionable item on our agenda is to amend our budget. We've discussed this a couple of times in committee. We need to develop a recommendation to do that. In tonight's packet, there's a resolution, resolution R3926, which calls for amending our budget. Primary reason for amending our budget is to absorb the unplanned for, unbudgeted for expenses of the new administrative building. Excuse me, the unplanned, unbudgeted for addition of a community service officer, the planned for but not budgeted expense for a boat launch kiosk, and the budgeted and planned for expense for an EMS building. And the committee's discussed in part eliminating the funding for the remainder of the year for the dive team in terms of covering part of that. So we end up with a $15,938 change to our budget to the negative, and our proposal to go to the committee is to fund that with an additional transfer from reserves. So I would entertain a motion to, or matter of fact, I'll make a motion to recommend board approval of resolution R3926. Look for a second.
I'll second that.
Okay, discussion?
Yeah, so I'm kind of lost on the $50,000 for the EMS for the building, what's that?
We originally included $50,000 for that.
So it only,
Well, for the part of the year.
well, that's for the 8 months.
For the 8 months, and also the expenses turned out to be less than projected.
Can I ask, since we're still on that line, it says 9 West Geneva, does it matter that I think it should be East Geneva?
You're probably right.
We'll call you,
And then also, about, and I know this is back a little ago, but resolution R69-25, so that was what we passed in November. 6 annual budget, correct? Not the 2020.
It's for the 26th.
26.
It's 26.
Yeah, you see that typo, and there's, just because it's a resolution, I just feel like we should have the right
Thank
data
you.
like that.
You're absolutely right. Other discussion?
No, this is.
No, I think this is necessary. And, we haven't yet voted on whether or not we're going to actually go through with the CSO. It hasn't gone before the whole board yet, am I correct?
Right, this would be a board recommendation.
Okay, so this would just be us moving it forward then,
Yes.
because we still need to have a conversation on that.
Just as a point of clarification, point of order, I guess, when this does go to the board, it will require a 2/3 positive vote.
I like that, yeah, thank you.
The fastest thing that,
Any other discussion? All those in favor of recommending board approval of resolution R 3926, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We'll carry that forward to the board for their consideration. And then, discussion of possible action, the waiver of fees for village events. The Parks and Lakefront Committee forwarded to us a recommendation or a resolution to waive those fees. I don't have the resolution here in front of me, but do we,
To village.
are we comfortable enough that we understand what we're waiving?
Language here. Yeah, I was wondering if it would be helpful, you had village department events, so that was the only change to the wording, add the word department. And I just wasn't sure if we should add such as, and list following sort of examples of the sorts of things we're talking about, the beach passes and, but if you're comfortable with department, that's fine with me.
If you wanted to add anything, you could say rec department, library, public works, police, fire.
The challenge at list making is you're always at risk of leaving something out.
You are.
Well, if you say such as, then you're open-ended, but I think it's fine, I think this is open-ended and valid, so.
Then I will make a motion that we recommend board approval of the resolution waiving fees for village department events
At the original property.
on village property.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries and they'll go forward to the board for their consideration. Last item on our agenda was just kind of a status update on 2026 borrowing. As you know, we authorized, the board authorized borrowing of approximately $2.4 million a couple of meetings ago. And we authorized the administrator and the village president to sign the paperwork on that. But just an update on that, I think you all saw, or you had a chance to see the Moody's rating that came out on our bond issuance today, which is very good. It was a AA2, which is what we currently have and is probably as good as we're ever going to get for whatever Moody's is worth. But anyhow, they think we're credit worthy.
Is that because of the water and sewer budget? No, I'm just kidding.
It had to do with a 40% rate increase on water. No, it was the boat slip rentals that did it. Anyway, so the Moody's rating was scheduled for June 1st. We have that. We expect tentative pricing the week of June the 8th. And the current feedback is we expect an interest rate of somewhere around 4%, which is I think pretty attractive given what banks are paying for deposits this year. And this loan's not subject to arbitrage anyway. And the projected settlement is the week of July the 9th, at which time we can repay the reserves for things we funded on this year out of borrowing. We already did.
It doesn't go to arbitrage if we spend it fast enough.
Well, this loan is not subject to arbitrage anyway, so, and we'll get these projects done, so. Any questions on that?
No.
Otherwise, I'll then solicit a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I'll make a motion to adjourn. Rob second, and all those in favor say aye. Aye. We're done. President, there we go.
Thank you, Trustee Bright. And then we're just gonna move to item 8 on the agenda, the Village Board Committee of the Whole section, possible action matters discussed in committee. Item 1 did not get advanced through committee, so we'll move to item 2.
Just a question, the selection of Fontana,
No,
did-
that's true. Fair enough. You're right. I'm sorry about that.
We did narrow it down, so we did
You're right.
actually
No,
accomplish something.
you're absolutely right. So I'm gonna go back to, number one item. We have a recommendation from the Protective Services Committee to select the Village of Fontana proposal for fire protection services, with no option identified. And that, was a recommendation. So that was a recommendation to the committee. It does not require a second. Is there any questions on that motion of approving the recommendation of accepting the Village of Fontana's proposal for fire protection services with no option? Any questions? All in favor of that motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. That motion carries. Thank you for that. You were right. All right, item 2. So we have a recommendation from the Parks and Lakefront Committee to approve resolution R3726 for the Williams Bay Business Association application for a temporary Class B license to sell permitted malt beverages during their Fiesta by the Lake event, June 20th, 2026, with the times to be 12 p.m. to 7 p.m. That recommendation was made out of the committee. Does not require a second. Are there any questions on the motion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. The motion carries. Next, we have a motion from committee recommending approval of resolution R3826, approving the application from the Williams Bay Fire Department for a temporary Class B license to sell fermented malt beverages during the chicken roast event on July 18th, 2026, with the times of from 11 a.m. till 9 p.m. That motion came from committee, does not require a second. Are there any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. The motion carries. Next, we have a motion from the Finance and Personnel Committee recommending approval of resolution R3926, approving the 2026 Village of Williams Bay Budget Amendment Number 1, including funding for Police Department Community Service Officer and new administrative offices operational expenses. Are there any questions on the motion? This is the one that requires 2/3 vote, I understand. All right,
Require 5 affirmative votes.
all right, so that being the case, I'll ask the clerk to give a roll call, please.
President Haramia,
Aye.
trustee Bartholomew,
Aye.
trustee Bright,
Aye.
trustee Black,
Aye.
trustee Russell,
Aye.
trustee Green.
And
This
that
one.
motion.
You missed one.
Oh, sorry, trustee Newman.
Aye.
Okay. All right, that motion does meet the 2/3 minimum requirement and carries. And then finally, we have a discussion and possible action on the Ad Hoc Tree Committee Phase 4 Dog Park 2024 tree plantings. So we had a recommendation to approve the Ad Hoc Tree Committee Phase 4 Dog Park 2026 tree plantings, the banner to promote the tree program, and the memorial brick and approval of fundraising amounts out of the Parks and Lakefront Committee. That motion does not require a second. Are there any discussions on that motion? No, it's also, did that go through finance?
No.
No, we won't.
Okay. Any questions on the motion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. And that motion carries. Chair will look for a motion to adjourn then.
I move to adjourn.
All right.
Second, right?
First from trustee Franzen, second from trustee Wright. All in favor of the motion to adjourn, please say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you everyone for coming tonight.
Edwards?